So when I look at the financial reporting exam, the financial reporting exam has section A, section B, and section C. Section A, 15 questions of 2 marks each. Section B, again, 3 objective case studies, each case study with 5 sub questions into 2 marks. So section A and section B together count for your 60 marks in the exam. The remaining 40 marks is specifically focused on constructed response questions, which are basically descriptive questions. Now, these descriptive questions have a specific expectation. One question is usually on preparation of financial statements. The other one is on interpretation. For example, if the question on preparation of financial statements is single entity financial statements, then the interpretation question will usually be on consolidated financials. Agar they tell you ki yaar, you have to prepare consolidated financial statements, then the analysis interpretation question is more likely to be on single entity. Mostly it could be a case, where this is different, but this is the pattern that ACCA follows. Now, while everyone feels that they are confident in section A, B, accounting standards, calculations, theory, MCQs, and preparation of financial statements also is not such a difficult task, I think one area where a lot of us are unnecessarily troubled is the interpretation of financial statements. The question that we have is कि इसमें क्या लिखना है हमें नहीं पता. We don't know what exactly has to be written in these questions. So today's session, I have planned specifically with that objective in mind. कि for each one of us who feels कि यार ऐसे question में क्या लिखना है, we don't know. Let's spend today's time on doing multiple questions on interpretation of financial statements. So so what I have done is I have divided the questions into different categories. What do I mean by that? Say, for example, in interpretation of financial statements, there are 2 or 3 specific type of scenarios that they usually test you on. For example, scenario 1 is comparison of an entity with itself, current year and previous year. Scenario 2 is comparison of the entity with another entity or comparison of the industry with the sector average. I am operating in the edtech sector and how are other companies in the edtech sector performing? That is the second type of question that you could be asked. You could also be asked to interpret cash flow statements. So cash flow banane ko shayad na hai, but cash flow statements ka interpretation might come. So one entity over 2 periods, 2 entities in the same period, comparison with sector averages, 3 categories, analysis of cash flow information of a single entity, and subsidiary holding, an analysis of consolidated financial statements where the company is acquiring another entity, or analysis of consolidated financial statements where the entity is disposing of another entity. मतलब एक subsidiary का sale हो रहा है या new subsidiary is getting acquired. These are the basic 6 different types of questions that will be asked in your interpretation. Ab, is it possible to have a stepwise approach to these questions? Let's see. जहां जहां पे possible है, can we have some basic pointers कि यार ये इतना 4 चीजें तो आपको करना ही है in all the questions, so that it ensures a basic minimum number of marks. Out of 20 marks, chalo 6 marks are ensured because of this, and then the remaining marks will depend upon how well you apply your logics to facts of the case. Okay, now we'll be doing 6 questions on ratios today. ठीक है, total 6 questions करेंगे, out of which each type का एक एक question हम उठाएंगे. Although single entity comparison with itself is still easier, consolidation में थोड़ा सा there are different elements involved. So that is the objective. Along with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to revise with you all the different possible adjustments that can come in single entity financial statements. मतलब एक पेज में हम क्या करेंगे, we'll just say for example the adjustment is closing stock. ठीक है, तो क्लोजिंग स्टॉक अकाउंटिंग एंट्री इज क्लोजिंग स्टॉक अकाउंट डेबिट टू कॉस्ट ऑफ सेल्स. बैलेंस शीट में क्लोजिंग स्टॉक आएगा, ऑन द असेट साइड कॉस्ट ऑफ सेल्स में सब्ट्रैक्ट होगा. सो all the possible adjustments in the exam kit, we are going to summarize those in one place today towards the end. Apart from that, I'll also be giving you steps on consolidation. ठीक है, when you are consolidating the financial statements तो क्या होगा, if it is a mid-year acquisition तो क्या होगा, P&L है तो क्या होगा, disposal है तो क्या होगा? All of those factors we'll try to put it together in one place. Apart from that, now you can tell me, see, usually when I do a batch, I have time for introductions, talking about myself, talking about you, but today we are, of course, we have one day, right? So I would want to know from you if you have any specific expectations, and then let me think about how I can fulfill those. So please go ahead and tell me. Ed,
Yes, sir.
do you have any specific expectations?
No, sir. I think the part we are going to cover today, so it will summarize every doubt of my preparation.
Okay. So, अगर if I had more time ना, I would have taken up other things also. But चलो अभी जितना है उतना. And I think accounting standards and calculations and all of that, most of us don't face an issue. Uh, but ratios is one part, where everyone has the largest number of challenges. तो फिर वो करते हैं. ठीक है? Anything else anyone wants to say? नहीं? Okay. ठीक है. Let's begin. And wherever you get stuck, wherever you feel कि ये समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, just raise your hand and we can address that particular challenge. ठीक है? Now, whenever you read a question, be it in A, B, C, in any subject, the first thing you should do is you should read the requirement. ठीक है? यहाँ पे calculate for the year ended 31st of March 2004 equivalent ratios to the first four only for Wood Bank, excluding the effects of the purchase of Shaw, which means the company here is acquiring another entity, excluding the effect of this. So you don't have to include the impact of the purchase of another entity. Assume the capital employed for Shaw is equal to purchase price of 50 million. Assess the comparative financial performance and position of Wood Bank for the year ended 31st of March 2004. Your answer should refer to the effects of the purchase of Shaw, and discuss what further information specific to the acquisition of Shaw that would allow you to make a more informed assessment of Wood Bank's performance and position. This is for 4 marks. So part 1 is on calculation. Okay. Part 2 is on detailed analysis. Part C is on what additional information you might need. Okay. So we have established one thing so far, that this is interpretation question where one entity has acquired another entity. So ये consolidated financial position हो सकता है और consolidated P&L हो सकता है. Let's see. Let's not form a judgment, but you will have to incorporate the impact of acquisition of another entity. ठीक है? So चलो. Let's have a look at the P&L. एक बार देखो what all information is there. Revenue है, cost of sales है, gross profit, distribution cost, admin expenses, finance cost, which is basically loan note interest, profit before tax. Now these are this is a consolidated profit and loss account. ठीक है? Now income tax expense and profit for the year. Then you have non-current assets. This is statement of financial position, PPE, goodwill, inventory, trade receivable, bank and total assets. एक बार देखो, एक बार have a look at the P&L and the balance sheet. Just one small request, do not form an opinion कि ये ऐसा होगा या वैसा होगा. Whatever it is, don't form an opinion, because I want you to have an open mind when we read the additional information that is given to us. You now know that these are consolidated financial statements, so there is going to be some additional information that is given here. Your objective should be to pocket as many marks as possible. ठीक है? अब और information देखो. आपका by the way balance sheet is not complete. You have your equity and liabilities here. Share capital, retained earnings, current liabilities, trade payables. देखो अब even textbooks make a mistake. How? We think that only we are making mistakes and we are very hard on ourselves. देखो, they have written the same thing twice. है ना? So sometimes when you look at the study text and then your answer doesn't match and you start cursing yourself कि अरे मुझे कुछ नहीं आता, that's not fair. A lot of times the textbooks, this is from the Kaplan kit, they also make mistakes sometimes. It's okay. Now you have non-current liabilities. Suddenly देखो 5 का 55 हो गया है. Current liabilities increase हो गया है. Tax payable is more. And then you have some additional information. ठीक है. Look at the first point. On 1st of Jan 2004, Woodbank purchased the trading assets and operations of Shaw for 50 million and on the same date issued additional 10% loan notes to finance the purchase. Shaw was an unincorporated entity and its results for 3 months from 1st of Jan 2004 to 31st of March 2004 and net assets including goodwill not subject to any impairment are included in Woodbank's financial statements for the year ended 31st of March 2004. There were no other purchases or sale of non-current asset during the year ended 31st of March 2004. Look at this paragraph and now tell me the balance sheet and P&L that you saw, is it a consolidated balance sheet as in holding subsidiary वाला है कि one company acquiring an unincorporated business? Unincorporated business मतलब किसी sole trader का business आपने acquire कर लिया. Unincorporated business means there is a memorandum and articles of association and a company has been formed. यहाँ पे when they are saying it is an unincorporated business, what it means is किसी sole trader का business you took over, you acquired the business of a sole trader. So this is basically comparison of a company with itself. This is not consolidated financial statements. ठीक है? So let's write that down. Company acquired an unincorporated business. This is not acquisition of another company. The financial statements presented to you are not consolidated financial statements. ठीक है? Basically, it is comparison of a company with itself, which is why I said do not form any preconceived notions before you approach the question. Second part देखो. Extracts of the results for 3 months of the previously separate business of Shaw are included in Woodbank's statement of profit or loss for the year ended 31st of March 2004. Revenue, cost of sales, gross profit, distribution cost, and admin expenses. Then the following 6 ratios have been correctly calculated for Woodbank for the year ended 31st of March 2004. Return on capital employed 2003 and 2004. You see how they can sometimes mess up the information. यहाँ पे 3 पहले है 4 बाद में है and in the balance sheet and everything 4 पहले है 3 बाद में है, so be very careful. Return on capital employed is given, net asset turnover is given, GP margin and profit before interest and tax margin. They have also given you current ratio and gearing ratio. First requirement says calculate for the year ended 31st of March 2004 equivalent ratios to the first 4 only for Woodbank excluding the effect of the purchase of Shaw. Now you have to understand one thing that the 2004 figures. Okay, what was the date of acquisition? Woodbank acquired the unincorporated business on 1st of Jan 2004. Okay, Woodbank acquired the unincorporated business on 1st of Jan 2004. So the financial statements on 31st of March 2004 include the impact of this acquisition. What does that mean? The revenue for year ended 31st of March 2004 is basically revenue of Woodbank along with revenue of the unincorporated business for Jan to March. Naturally, वो 3 महीने का income will also be included. So this revenue 1,50,000 is revenue of Wood Bank plus ये जो unincorporated business आपने acquire किया उसका जो total revenue है 30,000 that is also included here. What they want you to calculate is they want you to calculate the return on capital employed of the year 2000 of the first four ratios actually without considering the impact of the company that you have acquired. ठीक है चलो solution 1. You for this part you will have to focus on the spreadsheet, sorry, on the word processor document in your uh, exam window. Okay, now have a look at this. The first thing they want you to calculate is return on capital employed for the year ended 31st of March 2004. उसके लिए what all will you need? You will need profit before interest and tax and year end total assets less current liabilities. So calculation of ratios for Wood Bank without considering impact of acquisition. The first one is return on capital employed. How do you do it? ROCE is PBIT upon capital employed. Now, I will write the explanation here. Calculation I will do here. Okay. First of all, what is the total PBIT of Wood Bank for 2004? The total profit before tax is 16,250. What do they want in the formula? They want profit before interest and tax. How can you calculate profit before interest and tax? 16,250 mein you will have to add back 1750. Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
है ना? You need profit before interest and tax. You will have to add back that much. 16,250 plus 1750. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Or you could also do 30,000 minus 15,000 and you would still arrive at profit before interest and tax. ठीक है यहाँ पे I am showing all the calculations. PBIT of Wood Bank total. This is 16,250 which is profit before tax plus 1750 which is interest. ठीक है so PBIT of Wood Bank total is 18,000. But the 2004 figures also contain the impact of the acquired company. What is the profit of the acquired company? Gross profit is 9,000 minus distribution cost 2,000 minus administrative cost 2,000. Okay. But PBIT of 18,000, but PBIT 18,000 of Wood Bank contains PBIT of Wood Bank standalone along with profit of the unincorporated business of unincorporated business acquired and profit of unincorporated business is 9,000 minus 2,000 minus 2000, that is 5000. So PBIT of Wood Bank excluding unincorporated business would be 18,000 minus 5,000, that is 13,000. Do you agree? है ना? And how do you go for capital employed? Capital employed, they have told us how to calculate. Net asset, sorry, year-end total assets less current liabilities. Year-end total assets कितना है? 1,75,000 minus current liabilities 25,000. ठीक है. Now, year-end total assets of Wood Bank combined 1,75,000 and year-end current liabilities of Wood Bank combined, which is like 25,000. So year-end capital employed of Wood Bank combined 1,75,000 minus 25,000 is 1,50,000. And they have mentioned one more point. Capital employed for Shaw is equal to purchase price of 50 million. ठीक है. So capital employed of Wood Bank excluding Shaw is 1,50,000 minus 50,000. आपने इसका हटा दिया शॉ का, तो आपके पास बचा 1 लाख. Now PBIT upon capital employed is 13,000 upon 1 lakh, which is equal to 13%. Now remember one thing. These calculations, I am doing it for your understanding. You are not supposed to write so much detail in the exam. You just quickly do the calculation and you move on. उतना ही करना है, otherwise you will end up wasting a lot of your time. ठीक है. Now, what is the next one? Net asset turnover equal to capital employed turnover. और net asset turnover कैसे आएगा आपका? Tell me the formula. Net assets turnover. Is it sales upon capital employed or sales upon net assets? Is that correct? ये कुछ और फॉर्मूला है. Sales upon capital employed. What are combined sales? 1,50,000. What is sale of Shaw? 30,000. Combined sale 1,50,000. Sale of Shaw 30,000. Combined sales 1,50,000. Sale of Shaw 30,000. So sale excluding sale of Shaw is 1,50,000 minus 30,000, that is 1,20,000. ठीक है. So net assets turnover कितना होगा? 1,20,000 upon capital employed 1 lakh, which is 1.2 times. ठीक है. Next one, gross profit margin. Gross profit margin is gross profit upon sales. Gross profit margin is basically gross profit upon sales into 100. Up, you have sales of this entity, but you don't have gross profit of the entity excluding Shaw. इसका इंडिविजुअल ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट है 33, सॉरी, इसका कंबाइंड ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट है 33,000. शॉ का ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट है 9,000. सो 33 माइनस 9, दैट विल बी 24,000. ठीक है. सो combined gross profit is 33,000. Gross profit of Shaw is 9,000. So what is gross profit excluding Shaw? Will be 33,000 24,000. 9,000 upon what are the combined, what are the sales excluding Shaw? 1,20,000. Make sense? कि नहीं गलत है? Sorry, why did I write 9,000? I should write 24,000. 20%. ठीक है. And one last ratio, which is profit before interest and tax margin. Profit before interest and tax margin. ये कैसा होगा? How will we calculate this? You will PBIT, total PBIT लो, profit before interest and tax margin, that is 18,000. उसमें से subtract करो of the other entity, है ना? So profit before interest and tax margin, PBIT upon sales into 100. हमारे पास we already have PBIT of Wood Bank excluding the unincorporated business. We also have sales excluding sale of Shaw, 1,20,000. So PBIT margin will be PBIT कितना 13,000 upon 1,20,000 into 100. कितना होगा? 10.83%. This is my profit before interest and tax margin. Have a look at all the details. If you have any questions whatsoever in any of the calculations, please let me know. Once that is done, then we'll move on to the next part of the discussion.
So can you please explain the first one once again?
Okay. Which part? This ROCE you
Sir,
want?
yes.
Okay. So ROCE is profit before interest and tax upon capital employed. Now, this figure 16,250 is profit before tax, right? And we want profit before interest and tax. 16,250 is interest minus करने के बाद का profit. We need before subtracting the interest. So 16,250 में 1,750 add करना पड़ेगा, right?
Yes, sir.
या फिर if you start from the top, 30,000, 33,000 minus 6 minus 9, 33 minus 15, you will get 18,000. The answer will still be the same. 18,000 ही आएगा
Yes,
आपका
sir.
profit.
Yes, sir.
Now, second part is that you need profit not of the combined operations, but Shaw का impact छोड़ के आपको profit चाहिए. Now, if you observe, कितना है Shaw का profit is profit before interest and tax 30 minus 21 9, 9 minus 4 5,000. So इसका profit है 5,000. We want PBIT of the business excluding the PBIT of Shaw. So 13,000, 18,000 minus 5,000, you will get 13,000, correct?
Yes, sir.
And denominator also should represent only capital employed of Woodbank, excluding the newly acquired business, correct?
Yes, sir.
तो वो कितना होगा? See, 1,75,000 is the total assets and 25,000 is the total current liability. So you have 1,50,000 as the year-end capital employed of Woodbank. उसमें
Yes.
से subtract 50,000, which is यहाँ पे लिखा है कि यार this is a capital employed of Shaw 50 million. तो वो आपने हटा दिया. You will have capital employed only of Woodbank excluding Shaw. Correct?
Yes, sir. Got it. Got it.
Yes. बाकी के तीन also you guys check. Then we'll move on to the next one. ठीक है. चलो. Now to the interpretation bit. Assess the comparative financial performance and position. Performance means profit and loss. Position means the balance sheet part. For the year ended 31st of March 2004, your answer should refer to the effects of the purchase of Shaw. ये एक और additional part दिया है. Refer to the effects of the purchase of Shaw. So when you analyze and when you say कि अरे GP ratio has increased by so and so, or XYZ ratio has fallen by whatever percentage, so the impact of the acquisition of the other entity has to be mentioned. ठीक है. Now, always see whether if you can write an introduction paragraph. Okay, that introduction paragraph should define in a way the peculiar circumstances of this case. मतलब इस case में Woodbank has acquired another company, so you will have to write down that Woodbank acquired this company on 1st of Jan so and so. So the balance sheet contains the impact of the assets and the figures in P&L account include the impact of the 3 months का sales and cost and everything of the other entity. ठीक है, तो वो पार्ट आपको मेंशन करना पड़ेगा वहां पे. ठीक है. एंड देन यू गेट डाउन टू डिस्क्राइबिंग एवरी सिंगल आइटम वन बाय वन. कितना लिखना है, क्या लिखना है, लेट्स सी. Now, always ensure that you write the introduction paragraph. समझो, another situation is something like you are analyzing balance sheet of two entities of one entity over last year and current year. So introduction paragraph mein you should always write down what is it that you are going to do and if there are any special circumstances that warrant your discussion. What do I mean by special circumstances? I'll show you. Okay. Now, Woodbank company acquired. What did it acquire? See if you can uh, purchase the trading assets and operations of Shaw. Okay. Acquired the trading assets and operations of Shaw on 1st of Jan 2004. Okay. Wood Bank Company acquired the trading assets and operations of Shaw on 1st of Jan 2004. This acquisition was financed by the issue of, यहाँ पे लिखा था, right? Issue of additional 10% loan notes, है ना? Was financed by the issue of additional 10% loan notes worth 50 million. ठीक है. The financial position on 31st of March 2004 includes the impact of assets and liabilities of Shaw and the figures in profit and loss account include the impact of revenue, costs, and profit for the months of Jan to March of Shaw. So in the introductory paragraph, you gave a full background of what the situation is. इसमें you haven't done any analysis, by the way. All you have done is you have given a background कि यार ये situation में क्या हुआ था. And now you get into ratios one by one. They have said speak about performance and speak about position. Now, ideally what you should do is now you should make use of these ratios for the purpose of commentary and analysis. बाकी के ratios जो यहाँ पे, if nothing has been given, then of course use your common sense. If they are speaking about profitability, speak about gross profit margin, net profit margin, return on capital employed. Here luckily they have written these three ratios, so I think that much information and analysis should be enough. ठीक है. तो which ratio do you want to start with first? Let's start with the first one, that is return on capital employed. Now, this is 12, this is 10.5. What else? ये 10.5 था, but you have also calculated the ROCE without considering the impact of acquisition. ठीक है. So, when you talk about the return on capital employed, let's do one thing. ठीक है, profitability. Let's start with the first ratio, that is ROCE. In a line, explain what is return on capital employed. Can you tell me what does ROCE stand for?
The amount the investor had invested in the company and the rate of capital, then rate of interest they are getting on that behalf.
Okay. So when I'm talking about return on capital employed, I'm saying here if I have invested 100 rupees in the business, then uspe, what is the profit I am earning on the 100 rupees that I have invested in the business. That is what return on capital employed is all about. Okay. So ROCE of a business explains the return earned on the net assets slash capital employed in the business. The higher the ROCE, the better is the profit generation capacity using the amount of capital employed. Now, once you have explained what is ROCE on every 100 rupees employed in the business, what is the return you are getting, then make a factual statement. Factual statement matlab, say that in the year 2003 it was 10.5 and in the year 2004 it is 12%. ठीक है. And कितना percentage improve हुआ वो भी लिख दो. ठीक है. Always start with a factual point, something that you can see. The ROCE was 10.5% in 2003 factual and no interpretation. And it has increased to ROCE has increased to how much? Or increased se zyada na, you should use the word improved actually. Return on capital employed was 10.5% in 2003 and it has improved to 12% in 2004. This represents how much? कितना increase हुआ इसमें? Well, minus 10.5 upon 10.5, which is like a 14.3% in interest. This represents a 14.3% increase in the return generated on the capital employed. ठीक है? Factual statement followed by a percentage increase. ठीक है? Now, bracket में लिख सकते हो as compared to last year. Again, you are still factual, no interpretation. Then one calculation that you have done is if you remove the impact of the acquisition of Wood Bank, the ROCE is 13%. If we do not consider the impact of acquisition of Shaw, the ROCE stands at 13%. ठीक है? How would, यहां तक हमने सिर्फ फैक्ट स्टेट की है. नाउ you have to write one line of interpretation now. What would that line of interpretation be? पहले 10.5 था, it became 12 combined. If you remove Shaw, it is 13. Can I say that this implies that the purchase of Shaw has had an adverse impact on the ROCE of Wood Bank? This shows that purchase of Shaw has had an adverse impact on the ROCE of the company. ये एकदम स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड इंटरप्रिटेशन हो गया. अब यहाँ पे there is one more thing that I would want to write. What is that? The point is कि जो न्यूमरेटर है ना आपका न्यूमरेटर, it includes वुड बैंक का प्रॉफिट फॉर द एंटायर ईयर, शॉ का प्रॉफिट फॉर 3 months, बट डिनोमिनेटर कंटेन्स पूरा ईयर एंड का प्रॉफिट. सो अगेन दैट क्रिएट्स अ बिट ऑफ एन इम्बैलेंस. ठीक है? आइडियली दोनों नंबर शुड रिप्रेजेंट द सेम थिंग, राइट? बट यहाँ पे न्यूमरेटर जो है वो सिर्फ 3 month का प्रॉफिट है, बट जो डिनोमिनेटर है दैट डिनोमिनेटर इज कैपिटल एम्प्लॉयड एज ऑन अ पर्टिकुलर डेट. So that might, make the calculation a little imbalanced. So just write that much part. However, we need to realize the fact that the numerator contains profit of 3 months only, whereas the denominator, that is capital employed, contains the value as on a single date at the end of the year. So आपका numerator and denominator, they represent two different things, and this comparison could make it inconsistent. This would make the comparison somewhat inconsistent. आगे, what else could you say? अभी इतने पे रुक जाओ. ठीक है, stop at this much because you have to write about 6 different ratios, right? So ROCE you have written this much, you wait. Now let's talk about gross profit margin. Again, the same format. What does the ratio stand for? Tell me, either type it out in the chat box or unmute and tell me what does the gross profit margin stand for?
It represents how much gross profit a company has earned on every $1 of revenue earned.
Gross profit margin explains the amount of profit earned by the company on each dollar of revenue earned. And gross profit is basically revenue less cost of sales. Anything else that you would want to say? To me, it seems okay. इतना तो ठीक है. If you want to add, just add one more line, no further. Otherwise, आपको paper में time you will feel that it is not enough. Write down last year it was 22%, and in the current year as well it is 22%. Factual data. Gross profit margin was 22% in 2003 and it has remained 22% in 2004, representing effects after incorporating numbers for shock. तो ये जो 22% है ये वुड बैंक का खुद का जीपी प्लस शॉ का जीपी ऐसा है. बट if I look at wood bank का gross profit margin, then the gross profit margin of wood bank after excluding the gross profit of Shaw is only 20%. Just write down. However, the gross profit margin of wood bank excluding the impact of Shaw is 20%. This also goes to show that the acquisition has had an adverse impact on gross profit, thereby reducing it from 22% to 20%. यहाँ पे देखो तो कितना है ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट. रेवेन्यू माइनस कॉस्ट ऑफ सेल्स इज 9,000. 30% ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट है इसका ओनली फॉर 3 months शॉ कंपनी का, राइट. नाउ because of the acquisition again you see that the gross profit ratio has gone down. So what will you say further? Yes, Zed, tell me.
Sir, how has the gross profit margin gone down? It has gone up from 20 to 22 now.
Because see, although ये individual percent is 30%, but यहाँ पे when you are combining it, this 1,50,000, यहाँ पे देखो अगर आप ऐसा कंसिडर करेंगे इसको रिमूव करके 1,20,000 एंड 33 minus 9, 24. ये 20% है. This is lower than the last year. So can I say that can I make the same statement that I made in the last one कि acquisition has had an adverse impact? No, मैं पिछला situation copy paste नहीं कर सकता. Ideally, just have an understanding of this. ठीक है. If anything, the acquisition of Shaw has helped to improve the gross profit percentage. Okay, so standalone gross profit percentage of Shaw was how much? Was 30% for the 3 months post acquisition. Okay. And gross profit margin of Woodbank, excluding this impact, was 20%. So, basically, the standalone gross profit margin had reduced, thereby indicating an increase in cost for Woodbank. But acquisition of Shaw, who generated a gross profit margin of 30%, helped to stabilize the profit. अगर आप शॉ को इंक्लूड नहीं करेंगे तो क्या होगा? इफ यू डोंट इंक्लूड शॉ, वो 22 का 20% हो रहा है। आपने शॉ को इंक्लूड किया विथ अ 30% जीपी, तो वो प्रॉफिट फिर से थोड़ा बैलेंस हो गया, द प्रॉफिट गॉट स्टेबलाइज्ड। सो इन अ वे वी कैन से दैट द एक्विजिशन ऑफ शॉ has in a way made up for the reduction in gross profit faced by Woodbank standalone. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
बस इतना लिख के छोड़ दो। डोंट, इफ यू वांट यू कैन राइट दिस पॉइंट ओवर एंड ओवर अगेन। एग्जाम में आपको सिर्फ कॉपी पेस्ट ही करना है, बट यहाँ पे वो अप्लाई नहीं होगा। पॉइंट क्यों अप्लाई नहीं होगा? बिकॉज आपने ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट इन द न्यूमरेटर इज फॉर 3 months एंड रेवेन्यू इन द डिनोमिनेटर इज ऑल्सो फॉर 3 months, तो इन अ वे इट्स गोइंग बैलेंस्ड ओनली। सो ये पॉइंट अभी फिर से मत लिखना, बिकॉज देन इट वुड नॉट मेक सेंस, इट वुड बी इनकरेक्ट। यहाँ पे क्या था? न्यूमरेटर वॉज अ figure for 3 months, denominator was a figure at a point in time. In gross profit margin, numerator is gross profit, which is for 3 months, denominator is sales, which is also for 3 months, so in a way it gets balanced out. ठीक है? अब नेक्स्ट वाला देखिए, you have profit before interest and tax margin. Last year it was 9.1, current year it is 12.0, and without considering the impact it is 10.83%. So let's write that down. Profit before interest and tax margin. Now write about PBIT margin. What can you tell me about this? Tell me. You can type it out in the chat box also. What does it mean? So PBIT margin indicates the percentage of net profit earned on every $1 of revenue. ठीक है? Now let's go for factual. PBIT margin was कितना था? PBIT margin 9.1%, was 9.1% in 2003, and it was 12% in 2004 after considering the impact of acquisition of Shaw. If we exclude the impact of acquisition of Shaw, the PBIT margin was or is कितना है PBIT margin 10.83. इस पे क्या कमेंट करेंगे आप बताइए. What additional comment can you make on this? The acquisition of Shaw has helped us to improve the overall PBIT margin, and standalone basis also the performance of Woodbank has improved. Marginal improvement है, but है. The standalone performance of Woodbank has improved slightly on its own, whereas the acquisition of Shaw has pushed up the PBIT margin further. ठीक है. So we can say that acquisition of Shaw has helped to improve the overall performance. ठीक है. सो जीपी मार्जिन एंड पीबीआईटी मार्जिन दोनों चीजों में इंप्रूवमेंट आया है. इफ नॉट अ मैसिव इंप्रूवमेंट, स्टिल अ गुड इनफ इंप्रूवमेंट. यहाँ पे acquisition of Shaw helped us to stop the company's performance from going down further, and here in PBIT margin it helped us to improve the performance. Okay, I'm showing you the ratios once again. We had to comment on profitability and position, right? Have a look at these ratios. Take a minute. I'll be back in a moment with my water. And then you tell me what other comment are we supposed to make. Okay, please start. Tell me something. Can the net asset turnover be used as any measure of performance? Can we do that? What does net asset turnover tell me? See, net asset turnover is basically an indicator of how well have I used the capital employed in order to generate sales. So don't you think net asset turnover could also be an indicator of financial performance? Last year, it was 1.16 times. In the current year, combined entity, it has fallen to 1.0 times. And without considering the impact of the acquisition, the net asset turnover is 1.2. I think this is a significant analysis that we can do here. Okay. So let's write down net assets turnover. Okay. Net assets turnover indicates the efficiency of a business to generate, or efficiency of a business in generating revenue from the available capital employed. The higher the net asset turnover, the better is the utilization of capital employed in generating sales. Now, net asset turnover was 1.16 की 1.3 कितना है 1.6 was 1.16 times in 2003, whereas it dropped down to 1.0 times in 2004. However, the net asset turnover in 2004, okay, net asset turnover in 2004, excluding the impact of acquisition of Shaw, was 1.2. This means Shaw as a standalone entity is not as efficient as Woodbank in generating sales using the amount of capital employed. See, इसका capital employed कितना था? Capital employed for Shaw is 50 million. 50 million से it generated 30, 123, 123 and 50 million. So Shaw's capacity to generate sales is only 0.6 times its capital employed, whereas standalone इसका capacity है कि it can generate sales which are 1.2 times the capital employed. ये observation आपके लिए बहुत critical रहेगा. Standalone Shaw has a net asset turnover of 0.6 times. 30,000 upon 50,000. Whereas the net asset turnover of Woodbank standalone is 1.2 times. So ये acquisition में क्या हुआ है? Acquisition में one entity which is Woodbank which had a high net asset turnover, it acquired another unincorporated business called Shaw, which had a low net asset turnover 0.6. So kahin na kahin in the combined entity, because of this acquisition, the net asset turnover has fallen. Now, Woodbank and Shaw, if you look at them together, I can say that the GP ratio and the PBIT margin both improved because of acquisition of Shaw. However, the net asset turnover fell because of the acquisition of the entity. So that could be, the final summarizing statement that the gross profit margin and PBIT margin both improved due to acquisition of Shaw, whereas the net asset turnover reduced because of the acquisition of Shaw, whose own standalone net asset turnover was 0.6. ठीक है. सो एक आपने कंबाइंड स्टेटमेंट, एक कंबाइंड एनालिसिस कर दिया. इससे क्या हुआ? सी, दिस इज अ 12 मार्क क्वेश्चन. द इंट्रोडक्टरी पैराग्राफ सेट्स द टोन एंड यू एनालाइज्ड ईच वन ऑफ देम प्रॉपर्ली. चारों रेशोज आपने आइडेंटिफाई कर लिए. सी, फॉर 2 मार्क्स दिस मच एक्सप्लेनेशन वुड बी रिक्वायर्ड, राइट? सो आपने उस पर डिटेल में एक्सप्लेनेशन भी दे दिया है. नाउ यू कैन मूव टू other aspects, which is now commenting on what? On the position of food bank. Financial position पे अगर comment करना है तो look at these ratios. You have current ratio and you have gearing. Now current ratio talks about liquidity. Gearing could talk about the long term capital structure of the business. What can you comment on these? Tell me. Look at the current ratio. Current ratio is a measure of short-term liquidity, right? Do you have enough current assets in order to pay off your current liabilities? Last year it was 1.08 is to 1. Current year it is 1.7 is to 1. Or rather, nahi, ulta hai. Last year it was 1.7 is to 1. Current year it has fallen to 1.08 is to 1. You will first of all make a comment on the factual part. Ki last year itna tha, current year itna hai. What should you say next?
The current ratio has fallen.
Current ratio has fallen. Could you write what it could lead to?
It will lead to increase in the liability due to the falling in current ratio.
Yes, and it could also mean that the company will not have enough current assets in order to pay off its current liabilities,
Yeah.
right? Chalo. Let's talk
Actually,
about, huh?
actually at this level, it takes times to interpret the.
So when that situation is there, now, whatever you know about the meaning of that ratio, just write that. Now we know that current ratio measures, do we have enough current assets to pay off our current liabilities, correct? तो बस उतना लिखो कि because the current ratio has fallen, we are led to believe that the company does not have enough current assets in order to pay off the current liabilities. इतना लिखा as a starting point तो भी चलेगा. And initially you are also writing ना कि last year it was so and so, current year it is.
Yeah.
Mentioning the factual part also fetches marks. Okay.
फैक्चुअल के बाद जो इंटरप्रेट करने वो उसमें भी उतने लिखे तो वो भी चल जाएगा.
हाँ, एक बेसिक तो उतना लिख के आपको अगर समझो 2 मार्क्स एलोकेटेड है तो 1.5 तक तो आपका स्कोर जा ही सकता है ना?
Okay.
The current, so first of all, always write down what does the current ratio mean. The current ratio of a company calculated as करंट असेट्स अपॉन करंट लाइबिलिटीज। ठीक है, करंट रेशियो ऑफ अ कंपनी कैलकुलेटेड एज करंट असेट्स अपॉन करंट लाइबिलिटीज primarily indicates the primarily indicates whether the company has enough current assets to pay off its current liabilities. It is a measure of short-term liquidity of the business. You just wrote down the meaning of current ratio. ये definition या ये जो भी एक basic knowledge है, you must have studied that in the relevant chapter. अब उस पे factual comment करो. The current ratio was 1.7 in 2003 and it has reduced to 1.08 in 2004. The ratio was above satisfactory in 2003 as a current ratio of greater than 1.5 is, as a current ratio of 1.5 is usually considered ideal in most industries. ठीक है, the fall in current ratio indicates liquidity challenges for the company. आपके कंपनी का करंट असेट कम हो रहा है, that is an indicator of liquidity challenges for the company. The company might not have enough cash in order to pay its current liabilities. Might not have enough. Instead of writing cash, let's write down current assets, which can be converted to cash in order to pay its current liabilities. The ratio of 1.08 is to 1 is drastically lower as compared to previous year. तो यहाँ पे जो जो liquidity related problems थे, you mentioned those problems. Is more analysis possible? Yes. There is a lot of other analysis also that is possible, but at this time when we are 10 days away or 12 days away from the exam, we should focus on, out of 20 we should focus on getting all the basic marks in place. अब 20 में से 15-16 तक का अगर स्कोर आपको चाहिए तो फैक्चुअल एनालिसिस इंटरप्रिटेशन दैट विल आल्सो डू द ट्रिक. बहुत हाई लेवल एनालिसिस करने का कोशिश मत करना. ठीक है, नाउ सी इफ यू कैन ऑब्जर्व एनी अदर इंफॉर्मेशन हियर. ये बेसिक इंफॉर्मेशन तो आपने देख लिया, और कुछ इंफॉर्मेशन है आपके पास? एनीथिंग इन P&L, anything in balance sheet that points you in a different direction? अब देखो, bank balance has fallen from 5,000 to 5,500. Receivables and inventory have increased. Trade payable has also gone up considerably. है ना? ट्रेड पेएबल भी बहुत इंक्रीज हुआ है. बैंक बैलेंस हैज फॉलन डाउन, करेक्ट, एंड all of that has led to the decline in current ratio. ठीक है, the current liabilities have increased drastically from 13,000 to 21,000. ठीक है, the current liabilities have increased drastically. Current assets में the bank balance has fallen down. from 5,000 to 500, showing considerably less cash available. The current asset balances have gone up. I should say the other current asset balances have gone up. Thereby showing more and more amount getting locked in current assets. आपने ये बता दिया कि और कितना अमाउंट आपका करंट असेट्स में लॉक हो गया. सो लॉक हो गया मतलब यू डोंट हैव इनफ कैश. पहले आपका करंट 8,000 का डेटर्स था, अब 11,000 का डेटर हो गया, विच मीन्स ज्यादा पैसा अटक गया इन डेटर्स. योर मनी विल टेक लॉन्गर टू गेट रिलीज्ड and you will not have enough cash to make payment to the creditors. So all of these are points which can be worrying for me. ठीक है. This was speaking about position में liquidity, and then you can also speak about the डेट इक्विटी रेशो. ठीक है. डेट इक्विटी रेशो या गियरिंग में आप क्या करेंगे? टेल मी व्हाट वाज द गियरिंग लास्ट ईयर? डेट अपॉन इक्विटी 5,000 upon 90,000, and current year it is 55,000 upon 95,000. Gearing. Gearing indicates the debt value as a proportion of equity invested in the business. The gearing was how much? 5,000 upon 90,000. 55 upon 95. बहुत ही ज्यादा इंक्रीज हो गया है ना? The gearing was 5.56% in 2003, and it has increased to 57.89% in 2004. The additional debt was borrowed in order to finance the acquisition of the अनइनकॉर्पोरेटेड बिजनेस. ये जो 50,000 का आपका गियरिंग इंक्रीज हुआ, सॉरी 50,000 का डेट इंक्रीज हुआ फ्रॉम 5,000 टू 55,000, यहाँ पे लिखा था ना that on 1st of Jan, Wood Bank purchased the assets of another business for 50 million and issued additional 10% loan notes to finance the purchase. राइट. तो जो नया बिजनेस आपने परचेज किया, टू परचेज द असेट्स ऑफ दैट बिजनेस यू हैड टू पे 50 मिलियन, एंड दैट 50 मिलियन केम फ्रॉम द इशू ऑफ न्यू डेट. तो ये जो आपका गड़बड़ हुआ है, गड़बड़ से ज्यादा दिस चेंज दैट हैज हैपेंड, दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ द एक्विजिशन ऑफ न्यू बिजनेस. ठीक है. सो व्हाट यू कैन से इज द कंपनी should have considered using another source of finance in addition to debt for financing the purchase of the new business, as this debt of 50 million has put a lot of pressure on the capital structure and finance cost of business. Naturally, आपका डेट बढ़ेगा तो आपका इंटरेस्ट भी बढ़ेगा, और जैसे आपका इंटरेस्ट बढ़ेगा इट विल पुट अ प्रेशर ऑन द कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर एंड फाइनेंस कॉस्ट. दोनों, आपका प्रॉफिट भी कम होगा, फाइनेंस कॉस्ट भी बढ़ेगा. आर यू ऑल विथ मी?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
ठीक है? Okay. And last one, what further information specific to acquisition of Shaw that would allow you to make a more informed assessment in Woodbank's performance and position? What additional information should have been there? क्या हो सकता है? See, statement of financial position of Shaw, in case you had that, that would be very useful for you. You have balance sheet standalone of the main company, but you don't have the assets and liabilities position of Shaw. So आपको individually नहीं पता कि what other information is there. Part C. What additional information is required, or what additional information would be helpful? One of the points that you could write is the standalone financial statements. Statement of financial position, specifically showing the value of individual assets and liabilities of Shaw would help us to analyze the financial position better. ठीक है? और क्या इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए आपको? Shaw statement of cash flows, है ना? That would also help.
Yes, sir.
अब डोंट से स्टेटमेंट ऑफ चेंजेस इन इक्विटी, क्योंकि वही एक आइटम बचा है, because that might not be so helpful, but the standalone balance sheet, the standalone cash flow statement would be helpful. Then what other information do you think can help you in the interpretation? Any potential savings that are possible due to acquisition? That is also another piece of information. Any potential savings possible due to acquisition? उसके बारे में लिखो. This is basically called synergy gains. This can always be a point, कि अगर two companies are getting combined, is there a cost saving that we are looking at? उसका impact अपने को समझना पड़ेगा. So details about that potential saving, that could also be a useful piece of information. Then,
Sir,
potential
saving means the savings which is done by subsidiary or parent.
So say for example, two entities are getting combined. Okay. Now, I have a warehouse and I'm acquiring your entity. You also have a warehouse. मेरा godown है आधा भरा, but I'm paying full rent of 1 lakh. Your godown is half full and you are also paying a rent of 1 lakh. If I acquire your entity, तुम्हारा आधा और मेरा आधा मिलके, we can keep all the material in one godown, pay only single rent of 1
Yeah.
lakh, and the other godown you don't have to take that on rent anymore. तो आपका 1 lakh का saving होगा, right? We are talking about those synergy gains here. These gains are called as synergy gains.
Okay.
ठीक?
Possible synergy due to acquisition.
Yes.
Thank you.
Most welcome. Then, what else could we write about? Details of major customer, suppliers, business contacts, etc. And in case of acquisition, there could be certain one-off costs. वो भी include करना पड़ेगा. Always write this down. Any one-off cost. One-off cost मतलब, say for example, You are acquiring the assets of the other entity. तो when you are acquiring the assets of the other entity, there is a possibility कि आपको शायद stamp duty pay करना पड़ेगा. It is a one-time expenditure, so even that should be included. So this is basically a rough idea on what additional points should be there. 5 marks के लिए था, हमने 4 points लिख दिया. So primarily that is more than enough. So far, what all we have covered is we have covered one type of analysis where one company has acquired another company, not another company, it has acquired another unincorporated business, and you have to compare the results of one entity over 2 years. ये कौन सा केस था? Result of one entity over 2 years, and there was an acquisition that took place. Now इसके बाद after we'll take a छोटा सा break, then we'll come back after the break and we'll analyze the situation where one company has acquired, sorry, we'll have another situation. ठीक है? And are we going to get this video? Yes, you will get this video. I will be uploading. Don't worry, आपको Excel sheet भी मिलेगा. You will get everything. Don't worry. आप देखो इसको, but आपको मिलेगा इसका Excel sheet. ठीक है? Don't worry. Chalo, it's 12:35. Let's take a 15-minute break. Come back at 12:50. We'll do another type of situation. Okay? Chalo, come back in 15. Chalo, come back. So before going for our break, we did a session, sorry, we did a question where we were comparing a company with itself, last year figure versus current year figure. Now, let's compare a company with the sector average. वो क्वेश्चंस को कैसे टैकल करना है? Let's try to understand how to compare a company with the sector average.
Sir,
Yes,
I have one doubt.
tell me.
Sir, if they are given the profits of 3 months that we did some few minutes back, and they have given sector average in that sum also, then how to tackle that sum?
So sector average you will have to, एक तो आप कंपेयर करके बोलेंगे कि कम है कि ज्यादा है, दैट वुड बी द फर्स्ट पार्ट, एंड देन यू विल आल्सो हैव टू कमेंट ऑन इट सेइंग दैट this is this comparison between the two numbers is not very accurate because it represents 3 months in one of the calculations and 12 months in the other calculation. So it's not the right way to do the comparison. So उतना बोल के आपको you will have to drop that because you won't be able to calculate the exact figures and values there.
ओके,
ठीक है?
क्योंकि ले सब्सिडरी ने एक्वायर किया बीच में मिड ईयर में, फिर
So see, this is technically not a subsidiary. This is you have acquired an unincorporated business. मतलब आप sole trader type business acquire कर रहे हो, है ना? बट इवन इफ इट इज अ सब्सिडियरी, अगर वो वाला सिचुएशन भी होगा तो भी ये पार्ट आपको हमेशा मेंशन करना है कि द सेक्टर एवरेज बोलो या प्रीवियस ईयर फिगर बोलो या वॉट एवर इट इज, दैट इज फॉर द फुल ईयर एंड दिस इज फॉर अ लिमिटेड पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. सो ये कंपैरिजन इज नॉट 100% इफेक्टिव. दैट पॉइंट ऑलवेज हैज टू बी देयर.
या
ठीक है? एंड आई इसके बाद कैश फ्लो का क्वेश्चन तुरंत करा देंगे. ठीक है, डोंट वरी. नाउ
कैश फ्लो नहीं आता ना
कैश फ्लो आता है ना.
20 मार्क्स के लिए?
Full 20 marks is not cash flow, but उसमें 8 to 10 marks can be interpretation of cash flow. In fact,
डरा
cash
देते,
flow statement, हाँ जी,
आप डरा देते थे तो फिर
अरे नहीं,
मैं वही बोला कैश फ्लो कैश।
फुल 20 के लिए नहीं आता है, बट 8 to 10 मार्क्स के लिए आ सकता है. प्रेपरेशन ऑफ कैश फ्लो तो रेयरली कभी आया है, बट इंटरप्रिटेशन काफी बार आया है. तो वील डू वन क्वेश्चन ऑन कैश फ्लो इमीडिएटली आफ्टर दिस. ठीक है, चलो. एक्सक्यूज मी. Recalculate the ratios for Hayden after making appropriate adjustments to the financial statements for notes 1 to 4 above. For this purpose, the expected purchase price of 30 million should be taken as Hayden's equity and net assets are Hayden's equity and net assets are equal to this equity plus the loan. You may assume that changes will have no effect on taxation. 6 marks is for recalculation. Then, in relation to ratios calculated in A above and the ratios for Hayden given in the question, comment on the performance of Hayden compared to its retail sector average. ये क्वेश्चन किस चीज पे है? ये क्वेश्चन है सेक्टर एवरेज पे. मतलब दैट पार्ट इज गोइंग टू बी क्रिटिकल. And one of Expand's directors has suggested that it would be wise to look at the Loden Group's consolidated financial statements rather than Hayden's individual financial statements. As an advisor to Hayden, explain any concerns you would raise about basing an investment decision on the information available in Loden's consolidated financial statements and Hayden's entity financial statements. So, lot of information to process. Let's see. Expand is a publicly listed entity which has experienced rapid growth in recent years through the acquisition and integration of other entities. Expand is interested in acquiring Hayden, a retailing business which is one of several entities owned and managed by the same family, of which Loden is the ultimate parent. The summarized financial statements of Hayden for the year ended 30th September 2004 are statement of profit or loss, revenue, cost of sale, gives you gross profit, less operating cost, less director salaries gives you profit before tax. उसमें से income tax expense subtract करो, you get profit for the year. ये क्या है? This is statements of Hayden. Okay, individual entity का financial statement है. एंड ये फाइनेंस स्टेटमेंट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल पोजीशन भी हाइडन कंपनी इंडिविजुअल है. नॉन करंट असेट में इन्वेंट्री एंड बैंक, you get total assets. Equity and liabilities, you have 1000 equity shares, equity share capital, retained earnings 18,700, and director's loan account, लो that is loan taken from director, interest free loan है 10,000 का, trade payable है 7,500, current tax payable है 2,800, and you have the total equity and liabilities. Now, from the above financial statements, Expand has calculated for Hayden the ratios below for the year ended 30th September 2004. It has also obtained the equivalent ratios for the retail sector average, which can be taken to represent Hayden's sector. Return on equity, net asset turnover, gross profit margin, and what is the other one? Net profit margin. From inquiries made, Expand has learned the following information. Hayden buys all of its trading inventory from another of the family's entities at a price which is 10% less than the market price for such goods. After the acquisition, Expand would replace the existing board of directors and need to pay a remuneration of who would replace the board would replace the existing board of directors and need to pay remuneration of 2.5 million per annum. Okay. The directors' loan accounts would be repaid by obtaining a loan of the same amount with interest at 10% per annum. Expand expects the purchase price of Hayden to be 30 million. Recalculate the ratios after making appropriate adjustments to the financial statements for the notes 1 to 4. For this purpose, the expected purchase price of 30 million should be taken as Hayden's equity and net assets are equal to this equity plus the loan. You may assume that changes will have no effect on tax. So tax के figures को change नहीं करना है. All four make appropriate changes in the statement of financial position P&L. सब जगह आपको necessary changes करना है, as in whatever values plus minus that you have to do. Because of these transactions, you will have to consider that, and that should be it. ठीक है. सो आपके पास स्टैंड अलोन फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स है. यू विल हैव टू टेक दोज एज द बेस एंड देन यू विल हैव टू स्टार्ट मेकिंग चेंजेस देयर. ठीक है. अब कैसे निकालना है एडजस्टेड रेशियोज. ठीक है. Hayden buys all of its trading inventory from another of the family entities at a price which is 10% less than the market price for such goods. यहाँ पे first of all आप ये समझो कि what are we trying to do? The first thing that we are trying to do is here certain transactions have been given to you and they have mentioned that there are certain differences. In the sense, Hayden buys its inventory from a related party जिसका purchase and it is getting it at a discount of 10%. Now you want to calculate the normalized profit, that is had it purchased from an unrelated party. और ये सारे changes अगर आप इनका impact हटा देंगे या इनका impact incorporate करेंगे तो what would the profit and loss account look like? For example, if you don't purchase these goods from a related party, then you will not get the 10% discount. तो आपके calculations में आपको काफी हद तक there will be a change. ठीक है. So you will have to calculate the adjusted values of all the numbers. ठीक है. Now जैसे Hayden buys all of its trading inventory from another entity at a price which is 10% less than the market price. Now this cost of sale represents the overall price at which Hayden company has acquired goods from another entity, but this is after giving the 10% discount. So if the 10% discount is not given, तो कितना purchase price incur करना पड़ेगा Hayden को? You will have to consider that. And ये सब consider क्यों करना है? Because they have asked recalculate the ratios after making appropriate adjustments to the financial statements for notes 1 to 4 above. ठीक है. So ये जो भी आपके पास values है which are given in the standalone financial statements that will have to get restated. ठीक है. Part A is recalculation of ratios. Working note 1 में what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my restated statement of profit and loss. ठीक है, जो existing profit and loss account है उसमें after you make whatever corrections they are talking about or whatever updates they are talking about उसका impact क्या होगा. Right now my sales are 70,000 less cost of sales. Now pay attention. The company purchases goods from a, किससे purchase करता है company? The company purchases goods from another family entity at a 10% reduction in price. From another entity controlled by the same family. The company gets the goods at a 10% lesser price. ठीक है. Now, had you purchased from another entity, तो ये 10% discount आपको नहीं मिलता. So, the 45,000 value is after the 10% discount. So, price of price of or cost of goods without the 10% discount. Don't you think this would be 45,000 upon 90%, which is 50,000? ठीक है, इसको थोड़ा डिटेल में बताते हैं. Let the price before discount be X. ठीक है, so X minus 10% of X is 45,000. So X minus 0.10 X is 45,000. X will be 50,000. Okay, so here in my cost of sales, I'm going to restate it at 50,000, or what I will get now is gross profit is 20. Then what is the next item? After acquisition, Expand would replace the existing board of directors and need to pay a remuneration of 2.5 million per annum. ये additional remuneration आपको pay करना पड़ेगा. Right now, if you observe, it has operating cost of this much and director salary of 1,000. So इसमें आपका add हो जाएगा less operating cost minus 7,000 less director salaries 1,000. But they are saying कि क्या होगा? The existing board of directors they would replace. So if you are replacing the existing board of directors, you will not have to pay them any remuneration. Do you agree? आपको उनको अभी नहीं देना पड़ेगा ना. If you are replacing the existing directors, तो उनको जिनको हटा दिया उनको थोड़ी आप सैलरी देंगे. So I'm going to scratch it out. Just going to do it with 3 stars. ठीक है, यहाँ पे देखो 3 stars. The existing board of directors was replaced. ठीक है, and the existing board was getting a salary of 1,000. Now, this salary will not have to be paid. So, we are removing its impact. ठीक है, and new directors will have to be paid a total salary of how much? कितना देना पड़ेगा? Total salary of 2.5 million per annum. 2.5 million per annum. This will have to be included in the calculations. So, going to write down less salaries for the new board. कितना होगा? 2500. ये नया इंक्लूड कर लिया आपने, ठीक है. स्टेटमेंट 1 हैंडल्ड, स्टेटमेंट 2 हैंडल्ड. इन बोथ ऑफ दीज डू यू हैव एनी डाउट व्हाटसोएवर? Zaid, Shivangi, any question?
No, sir.
Okay. The director's loan accounts would be repaid by obtaining a loan of the same amount with interest at 10% per annum. So director का लोन वापस हो जाएगा, but right now you are not doing anything, right? अभी कुछ finance cost included दिख रहा है आपको? No, I don't see anything else. So यहाँ पे I will write down less interest on new replacement loan 10%. कितना? कितने का लोन था मेरा? Right now I have a loan of 10,000. दिस इज इंटरेस्ट फ्री लोन. इसको हटा देंगे. इसके जगह पे नया लोन आएगा जिसपे आई हैव टू पे एन इंटरेस्ट ऑफ 1,000. ठीक है. सो दिस इज ऑल्सो टैकल्ड. एंड एक्सपांड एक्सपेक्ट्स द परचेस्ड प्राइस ऑफ हाइडन टू बी 30 million. इसका क्या करेंगे? व्हाट विल आई डू? इसका P&L पे कोई इंपैक्ट आएगा? परचेज प्राइस ऑफ हाइडन, दिस इज द अमाउंट यू आर पेइंग.
परचेज कंसिडरेशन है.
परचेज कंसिडरेशन है, मतलब P&L पे तो कोई इंपैक्ट नहीं आएगा.
नो.
We are calculating a restated profit. ठीक है. So profit for the year after interest. $9,500. Is there any tax? There is income tax expense of 3,000. यहाँ पे they have written, you may assume the changes will have no effect on taxation. Less tax. You will get profit after tax. You know, instead of saying profit after interest, we never use this term now. Let's just call it profit before tax. ठीक है. कितना हो जाएगा? 6,500. Fair enough. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
ये हो गया मेरा न्यू प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्स. ठीक है. न्यू प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्स इज 6,500. दैट इज वन पार्ट ऑफ द सिचुएशन हैंडल्ड फॉर मी. अब check करो if there is anything else that you have to worry about because of this buying and selling. Sorry, because of this acquisition of the new entity. बैलेंस शीट पे कोई इम्पैक्ट होगा? Tell me. चलो, what are the 4 ratios? Return on equity, है ना? Return on equity of Hayden Company, including directors' loan accounts. They have given you a calculation. Now they want you to restate the calculation. Return on equity is profit after tax divided by the total equity of the company, correct? Do you have a total equity of the company? Expand expects the purchase price of Hayden to be 30 million. The purchase price paid would form the What is purchase price? Purchase consideration. So when one entity acquired the equity of the other entity, it paid how much? To acquire the shares, it paid 30 million, right? So let's mention that part. To acquire Hayden, the company, to acquire Hayden, the purchase consideration was 30 million. This 30 million must be the amount that was paid to acquire equity shares of Hayden. ठीक है, ये मेरा कॉमन सेंस भी मुझे बता रहा है. Expand is interested in acquiring Hayden, a retailing business which is one of the several entities owned and managed by the same family, of which Loden is the ultimate parent. You are acquiring another entity. So how do you acquire another entity? आप उसके सारे shares खरीद लेते हो, right? You acquire the shares of the other entity, and that value is 30 million. So value of equity is 30 million. So value of equity of Hayden is 30 million. See, when you acquire another entity, basically you pay for the net assets of the entity. And what is net assets? Net assets is either total assets minus outside liabilities. Yeah, net assets is share capital plus share premium plus other reserves and surplus. So 30 million represents what? 30 million that was paid represents owners' funds or shareholders' fund. So 30 million will be the value of equity. And the first ratio that you have to calculate is रिटर्न ऑन इक्विटी. ठीक है, सो रिटर्न ऑन इक्विटी, हाउ डू यू गेट दिस? दिस इज प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्स अपॉन कैपिटल एम्प्लॉयड, नॉट कैपिटल एम्प्लॉयड, प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्स अपॉन इक्विटी. कैपिटल एम्प्लॉयड होता तो इट वुड बिकम पी, मतलब आरओसीई जैसा कैलकुलेशन हो जाता. व्हाट इज माय प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्स? 6,500 अपॉन 30,000, कितना आएगा? इज इट करेक्ट?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
अभी ठीक है, मैंने बराबर नहीं कंसिडर किया था. 21.67 इज योर रिटर्न ऑन इक्विटी. ठीक है, they wanted you to recalculate the ratios after making the adjustments which you have done. Now the next thing is net asset turnover. Net asset turnover कितना होगा? net asset turnover का फॉर्मूला,
Sales upon capital employed.
अरे, sales upon
Capital employed.
capital employed. The sales of the combined entity are pretty much the same. Sorry, combined entity नहीं, sales of Hayden you haven't changed those. So ये हो जाएगा 70,000. Denominator में है आपका capital employed. So capital employed will be 30,000 equity plus 10,000 debt. Correct? 10,000 debt क्या है यहाँ पे? You see, directors loans would be repaid by obtaining a loan of the same amount with interest at 10% per annum. Already loan कितना था? 10,000 का था. Now you have another loan. ठीक है, how much will this be?
1.75.
1 point. Everyone calculate. Everyone, quick. चलो, so this is 70 upon 40. But this is 1.75 times. And just a word of caution here, equity is 30,000 and loan is 10,000. So capital employed is 40,000. ठीक है. Next ratio, gross profit margin and net profit margin. So this is gross profit upon sales into 100. What is gross profit? Updated gross profit was 20,000. Sales are 70,000. ठीक है. 20,000 upon 70,000 into 100.
28.57.
ठीक है. $28.57 is the updated GP ratio. And last thing that they want you to calculate is net profit margin. Net profit upon sales into 100. Net profit कितना है? What updated net profit लगेगा? 6,500 upon 70,000. 6,500 upon 70,000 into 100.
9.2.
9.29%. ठीक है. 6 मार्क्स मिल गए आपको किसके? रिकैलकुलेशन के. In relation to the ratios calculated in one above and the ratios for Hayden given in the question, comment on the performance of Hayden compared to its retail sector average. Sector average मतलब see for Hayden कौन से business में है? Hayden could be say for example in the, they haven't really mentioned. Say Hayden is in the food business. तो food sector में काम करने वाले बाकी के जो entities है उसका average कितना आ रहा है? उसका average is 22.0 of return on equity, net asset turnover 1.67, GP margin 30%, net profit margin 12%. उस केस को कैसे टैकल करना है in this situation? So that part B is going to be on commentary. ठीक है. अब how should you comment when a question talks about sector averages? ठीक है. एक introductory paragraph होगा where you will say that the financial statements of Hayden have been restated after incorporating certain changes and additional details about its operations. And now we'll be comparing the results of Hayden after changes with the sector averages. ठीक है. So the financial performance values and values in the balance sheet have been restated after taking into account several changes on the basis of additional information given. Post incorporating such changes, we are now comparing the what? We are now comparing the results of Hayden with the results of the sector average. अब आप कमेंट करो हाइडन का return on equity is 47.1%. Restated return on equity is 21.67%. ठीक है. Restated return on equity is 21.67%, whereas the sector average is 22%. What comment do you think you should make on this one? सबसे पहले ना बिफोर अगेन मेक अ फैक्चुअल कमेंट. ठीक है. Let's make a factual comment on return on capital employed. Prior to making any changes in the data provided, the return on capital employed of Hayden was around 47%, whereas the
Return on equity, no?
return on equity था क्या? Sorry, my bad. Return on equity of Hayden was around 47%, whereas the sector average was, फिर से भूल गया मैं, 22%. Whereas sector average was 22%. Now, after the changes with respect to additional information were incorporated, the return on equity of Hayden came to 21.67%, which was in line with the sector average. ठीक है. After the changes with respect to, it was more in line with the sector average. Now, we can observe that the purchase price of material which forms cost of sales was 45,000, which was 10% below the normal purchase price. Due to such low cost of sales, the returns generated by Hayden were appearing to be better than the sector average. ठीक है. Now, normally, any loan taken by an entity requires the payment of interest. However, before the changes could be made, there was a risk, not risk-free loan, there was an interest-free loan. ठीक है. There was an interest-free loan, which means the financial statements of Hayden did not record interest expense. ठीक है. इंटरेस्ट एक्सपेंस भी रिकॉर्ड नहीं हुआ, तो एक और यहाँ पे आपका परचेज प्राइस कम रिकॉर्ड हुआ 5,000 से, यहाँ पे आपका इंटरेस्ट कम रिकॉर्ड हुआ, एंड the salaries of the directors were also apparently not in line with the market rates, तो सैलरी भी कम रिकॉर्ड हुआ था. ठीक है. the salary of directors recorded earlier was 1,000. ठीक है. This board was replaced by a new board, and salary paid to these was 2,500. So even the salary was not recorded at par with market rates, and the amount of expense was thus under recorded at first. ठीक है. With the changes made, the P&L is now in line with the sector and in line with normal market conditions. ठीक है. The P&L is now in line with the sector and in line with the normal market conditions. So the earlier return on equity of 47.1%, more than double of sector average, was found to be incorrect, and the updated number of 21.67% is more in line with the sector. तो यहाँ पे आपने क्या किया है, यू हैव एक्सप्लेन्ड इन डिटेल कि ये जो रिटर्न ऑन इक्विटी में सडनली इतना चेंज आया 47 से 21, लेस देन हाफ हो गया, राइट? उसके पीछे का एक वैलिड एक्सप्लेनेशन इज नाउ देयर फ्रॉम योर एंड, कि पहले जो इश्यूज थे, दोज इश्यूज यू हैव नाउ सॉर्टेड आउट. ठीक है. हैव अ लुक. पढ़ लो एक बार, अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट वी हैव डन, देन वील मूव ऑन टू द अदर बिट्स. ठीक है. ठीक है, any questions whatsoever on this? कुछ पूछना है? Anyone, guys?
No, sir.
ठीक है, should we move on to the next one?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Next one as in next ratio अभी देखना पड़ेगा आपने को. Now, next ratio is net asset turnover. Sector average 1.267, hidden 2.36 and इसका updated ratio है 1.75. Now, same comment you will have to make on asset turnover. ठीक है, asset turnover is a first of all write down what asset turnover means. ठीक है, उसके बारे में 2 लाइन लिखो, then state factuals कि prior to making any changes in the data provided, the asset turnover of Haydn was around 2.36 times and the sector average was 1.67 times. Comma नहीं. हाँ. After the changes with respect to the additional information, the asset turnover of Haydn came to 1.75 times, which was in line with the sector average, although a little more. ठीक है, now it is higher than what the normal sector average is. ठीक है, अब what kind of comment do you want to make on this? What has changed? See, asset turnover is sales upon capital employed. Your sales figure has not undergone a change, है ना? Sales figure is still 70,000 only, but your capital employed earlier was a higher number. Earlier it was a different number, 19,700 and yeah, 10,000, 29,700 tha. Now it is different. So how would you analyze this? What comment will you pass on this? Tell me. So your earlier reported figures, you don't know exactly how they were calculated, but you do know for a fact कि ये जो earlier figures थे ना, these were presenting a very pretty picture about Haydn. You are above the sector average. Okay. Even after this change, after adjustment, the company is still above the sector average. ठीक है. Even after adjustment, the company is still above sector average. However, the picture which was presented earlier was highly flattering and suggested that the company was doing almost 60% better than the sector in which it is operating. ठीक है. With the adjustments, now the results are in line with the sector. जरूरी नहीं है कि हर चीज पे डिटेल्ड कमेंट्री करना पड़े. यहाँ पे पॉसिबल था तो हमने डिटेल्ड कमेंट्री किया. यहाँ पे डोंट गेट इनटू डोंट गेट इनटू मेकिंग स्टेटमेंट्स लाइक कि यार ये कम क्यों हुआ होगा, ज्यादा क्यों हुआ होगा. इफ दैट काइंड ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन इज नॉट गिवन, डोंट मेक अ कमेंट ऑन दैट, बट एटलीस्ट factual representation of data is what is going to fetch you more marks. यहाँ पे थ्रू आउट आप मुझे बताओ, मैंने अपने तरफ से कुछ तड़का नहीं लगाया है. आई हैव नॉट एडेड एनीथिंग फ्रॉम माई ओन कि अरे ये हुआ होगा, फिर असेट खराब हुआ होगा, फिर नया असेट पैदा हुआ होगा. नथिंग. द डेटा दैट इज इन फ्रंट ऑफ मी, only that data I am using to explain the data and interpret the information. And your approach should also be similar कि जितना डेटा दिया है बस उतना ही इंटरप्रेट करो. ज्यादा अपने एंड से दिमाग मत लगाना, बिकॉज अननेसेसरी क्या होगा, यू विल एंड अप ओवर एक्सप्लेनिंग जो आपको एग्जाम में रिक्वायर्ड ही नहीं है. तो गेट rid of that thought. Your sector average is 30 and Hayden was 35.7. After adjustment, gross profit margin is 28.57. ठीक है. Do the same thing. Gross profit margin. आपको सेम पैटर्न फॉलो करना है. कैन यू टेक अ मिनट एंड ट्राई टू फ्रेम द इंटरप्रिटेशन फॉर ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट मार्जिन. पहले एक लाइन में लिखो व्हाट डज ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट मार्जिन मीन. देन से यू कंपेयर इट विद द सेक्टर एवरेज. What you say sector average was this, you say before adjustment Hayden ka value was this, then you say after adjustment Hayden ka value is this, and then make a statement on whether it is in line with the actual sector average or not. ठीक है. एक take 2 minutes and quickly write down the interpretation. ठीक है. 2 minutes I'll give you. Chalo, tell me. Post the adjustment, is Hayden's gross profit ratio in line with the sector average? I would say yes, it is slightly lesser than the sector average, but it is close to the sector average. And net profit ratio earlier, so before the adjustment, it was 20%, sector average was 12. After the adjustment, the net profit ratio fell down to 9.29%, jabki sector average is 12. So in a way, the net profit ratio is significantly below the sector average. So can you make that comment? है ना? Just make that comment. You don't need to write down the reasons necessarily for doing it. One of the reasons that you could write is जैसे for example, if you're talking about the gross profit margin, ठीक है? I'll have to make write down what the margin means, what gross profit margin means. Prior to making any changes in the data provided, the gross profit margin of Hayden was कितना? 35.7%. Whereas the sector average was कितना था sector average? 30%.
30%.
After the changes with respect to additional information were incorporated, the gross profit margin of Hayden came to 28.57%, which was in line with the sector average, though slightly lesser than the average. Now, the reason for inflated gross profit margin was the fact that the material was purchased at a 10% lower value. ठीक है? After considering the arm's length price of the goods purchased, the ratio came in line with the sector. आपने जब 45,000 को 50,000 कर दिया, विच इज द आर्म्स लेंथ प्राइस मतलब आपका IFRS 13 का फेयर वैल्यू, द प्राइस एट विच transaction is done between two unrelated parties under normal market conditions. जब आपने आर्म्स लेंथ प्राइस पे कर लिया तो रेशियो केम इन लाइन विद द सेक्टर. एंड एक और चीज ऑब्जर्व करो, आपका नेट प्रॉफिट रेशियो बहुत ज्यादा ड्रॉप हो गया. टू रीजंस फॉर द नेट प्रॉफिट रेशियो ड्रॉपिंग. ये 12% था, बट आपका आफ्टर एडजस्टमेंट हो गया 9.29%. वाई? Two reasons. Earlier, the interest on loan on commercial terms was not included, and salaries for the existing board were lesser than the standard market rate of 2,500. तो जब आपने ये incorporate किया, naturally आपका profit after tax और कम हो गया, because your expense was earlier not considered, now it has been considered. So your quality of answer will depend upon identifying these points. ठीक है? So net profit margin में आपका explanation of net profit margin and factual data को state करना, that would be say for 1 mark, and the reason for decline क्या है? Earlier loans from directors were interest free, whereas the commercial rate is 10%, which has now been considered. Also, the salary to directors is now in line with the market average rates. ठीक है. After considering the above two changes, the value of net profit has fallen significantly. Earlier it was 1000, now it is 2500. तो आपने नेट प्रॉफिट मार्जिन के डिक्लाइन का भी अच्छे से रीजन बता दिया. ठीक है, एक बार देख लो.
So we have now charged the 10% interest on the loan that we
Now
have
we
given.
have earlier it was an interest free loan. Now we replaced it with a regular loan. है ना?
Yeah. Then we have charged the interest of 10% to our penal, restricted
Correct.
penal.
Yes. ये देखिए 1000, है ना?
Okay. We have not shown that 2500 part.
And 2500 is the salaries for the new board. Earlier उनको कितना salary दे रहे थे आप? 1000. It was also not in line with the market rates.
Can you repeat? Just I
Earlier
have
we
the
were paying them
internet.
salary of 1000, right? Now what did they say? Replace the board and bring in a new board. And they need to be paid 2.5 million salary. So this is in line with the market rates. Earlier आप कम salary दे रहे थे. जैसे आप loan पे you were not paying any interest.
Yeah.
So which means your P&L was distorted, right? It was not giving you the correct picture. Now it is giving you the correct picture,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So earlier, because of not paying the full market price for purchase of goods, not considering the interest on loan or the correct remuneration, because of that, what was happening? You were telling the world that your financial position is far better, which it isn't. Now you know that you are doing as much as the industry is doing. आप कोई extraordinary काम नहीं कर रहे हो. आप industry में जो हो रहा है आपका और industry का behavior is the same. Industry has a 1.67 का net asset turnover, yours is 1.75. But see, when it is 1.67 versus old number of 2.36, तो सबको क्या लगेगा कि this company is doing very well as compared to the sector, and people will get misled, which is incorrect. आप लोगों को फिर you're not giving them the right information,
Yeah.
है ना? And the last part, which is a 5 mark sub part, one
Sir, can you explain gross profit margin?
okay, what the calculation?
Uh, Sir, cost of sale is increased, so GP would be less, no?
So it is less, na? Earlier your GP was how much? Your GP was 25,000. Now it is 20,000. It's lesser, right? Now, just a small question for you guys. Out of you, I think Nishita has studied with me for FR. Baki, no one else has, na? Harshita has.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Baki others have not studied with me, right?
No, sir.
Okay, and so आप जहाँ पे भी अटेंड किए हैं क्लास, तो वहाँ पे अभी एनालिसिस एंड इंटरप्रिटेशन का चैप्टर हो गया है आपका?
Yes,
वो
sir.
So,
बट एकदम ठीक से नहीं हो पा रहा।
ओके।
मतलब एक दो सम ही किया था उन्होंने,
हम्म।
और थोड़ा बाकी है, लेक्चर्स भी एक दो बाकी है, और अभी तक पोर्शन भी खत्म नहीं हुआ है।
ओके। How many of you have never done analysis of financial statements before? Is there anyone? Okay. Hey, you don't have access to my recordings by any chance, no?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. ठीक है. No problem. I mean, वो तो चलो वो बैच में तो I was like almost about to die. So that's a different story altogether. वो कैसे complete हुआ है वो मुझे ही पता है.
यू टीच ऑफलाइन और ऑनलाइन?
Online.
ओनली ऑनलाइन?
Only online.
या
So अभी I have stopped teaching FR regular basis पे, but I thought कि students usually have मतलब skill level का मैंने काम ऐसे भी थोड़ा कम किया है, but I know that students face a problem in this chapter. So I thought let's do a session where everybody can make the most of it.
या
फिर आपको और भी किसी टॉपिक में हेल्प चाहिए रहेगा तो वो हम कर लेंगे. आई can't promise that because time is quite limited right now, but मेरे से जितना बनेगा उतना मैं करूँगा. ठीक है.
Sir, we can do one thing. We can reduce the number of questions of ratios, and we'll skip to the consolidation part or cash flows or something like that.
I can also do more questions. मतलब see today I want to do at least देखो अभी 3 hours हो गए. We started at 11. It's almost 2. 3 hours में we have done 2 questions with a 15-minute break. Let's at least go till 4 p.m. and let's try to do at least two more questions of ratios. उसके बाद I'll arrange sessions for you separately. जहां तक पॉसिबल होगा ना I'll try to arrange sessions additional, थोड़ा लेट नाइट अर्ली मॉर्निंग ऐसा थोड़ा मिक्स करके. ठीक है.
Yes, sir.
sir, in C section, I have doubt on single entity.
ओके.
Like if you will give some tips or summaries of single entity, it would be helpful.
आई विल. आई टोल्ड ना. सो व्हाट आई विल बी डूइंग इज जो भी एडजस्टमेंट्स है ना, मैं सारे एडजस्टमेंट्स के शॉर्ट नोट्स आपको दे दूंगा. मतलब क्लोजिंग स्टॉक
Yes.
आया तो क्या करना, कंपाउंड इंस्ट्रूमेंट आया तो क्या करना. So all of those adjustments, we'll make like a list of all the adjustments which are possible.
Okay,
ठीक है.
sir.
अभी रेशोज अच्छे से शुरू किया है तो पहले रेशोज देखते हैं, फिर वील गो इनटू, इसके बाद आई विल डू द कैश फ्लो वाला क्वेश्चन. ठीक है. पहले ये जस्ट 5 मार्क्स का सब पार्ट है, ये कंप्लीट कर लेते हैं. One of Expand's directors has suggested that it would be wise to look at the Loden Group's consolidated financial statements rather than Hayden's individual financial statements. As an advisor to expand, explain any concerns you would raise about basing an investment decision based on the information available in Loden's consolidated financials and Hayden's entity financials. So, why should you prefer single entity का financials as opposed to the consolidated financials? ठीक है. You see, one problem that happens in consolidated financial statements is there are a lot of intercompany transactions that will take place. Loans होगा, sale purchase होगा, बहुत कुछ होगा. And when you look at the consolidated financial statements, the impact of all the intercompany transactions, related party transactions is removed. So even if sale has happened to a related party at arm's length price या at fair value, those transactions are removed in the consolidated financial statements. If you remember, when we prepare consolidated P&L, ना आप सेल में उसको इंक्लूड करते हो ना परचेस में इंक्लूड करते हो, तो दोनों इसमें से that value is removed. So you will never have an appropriate understanding of the actual financial performance. Then if you remember, closing stock के adjustment में आप unrealized profit हटा देते हो, so you remove a lot of values in the consolidated financial statements. What impact does that have? That means कि यार all the you will never be able to understand the actual financial position and performance of the business. ठीक है. Part C. Whenever we prepare a set of consolidated financial statements, then the following adjustments have to be done. ठीक है. Any intra-group sale purchase is eliminated from the consolidated P&L. ठीक है. Then any intra-group debtor creditors are cancelled. Then amount of loans within the group are also eliminated. ठीक है. The impact of profit on unrealized transactions is also eliminated. So it would not be possible to gauge the performance of the company solely by it would not be possible to gauge the performance of the company by analyzing the consolidated financial statements. To analyze properly without removing the impact of any transaction, the entity will have to remove to analyze properly without removing the impact of any transaction, the comparison will have to be done with the standalone financial statements. इसको if you look at the answer given at the back in Kaplan, उसको उन्होंने बहुत सारा expand किया है. ठीक है. So that part you can go through it once. एक बार आप देख लो उसको. But just make sure that मेन आपके आंसर में ये कवर होना चाहिए व्हाट आई हैव रिटन हियर. ठीक है. ये कि व्हाई आर कंसोलिडेटेड फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स नॉट प्रेफर्ड, इट इज फॉर दिस रीजन. ठीक है. सो दैट अलर्टनेस हैज टू बी देयर. पीछे का अगर आप आंसर पढ़ेंगे किसी बुक का तो वो 4 लाइंस को 40 लाइंस बनाते हैं. नॉट ऑल ऑफ दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट. यू रीड इट सो दैट आप थोड़े यू गेट familiar with the technical words, you see how they have written their answers, but you don't need to drill down to that level of detail. Only this much is also enough for you at this point. Let's understand कि whenever you are framing theory answers, it has to be a 360-degree view. आप सिर्फ numbers पे focus नहीं कर सकते, आपको comment भी करना है. but वो comment ना आपको stories अपने मन से नहीं बनानी है. जो data दिया है ना उसी data को आपको process करना है. So keep that in mind. Okay, it's almost 2:05. Let's take a 15-minute break, come back at 2:20, and we'll continue with a cash flow analysis wala question. This is a question exclusively on uh, analysis of cash flow statements. ठीक है. Calculate the following ratios for the year ended 31st of March 2003 and 2004. Gross profit margin, operating profit margin, interest cover, cash generated from operations or profit from operations का percentage. ठीक है. And comment on the performance and cash flows of Flash company for 2004. Performance पे comment करना है मतलब आपको P&L पे comment करना है. And then of course you have to speak about the cash flows. ठीक है. अब look at the data. Flash company sells electrical products both directly to the public and also to the business trade customers. Flash company operates from several properties which it owns. Can you read the remaining part for me, Harshita?
Yes, sir. So notes now.
हाँ, ये यहाँ से लेके यहाँ तक.
Okay. Flash company sells electrical products both directly to the public and also to business trade customers. Flash company operates from several properties which its own. During 2024, one of Flash company's competitors ceased trading and Flash company acquired a number of its properties and opened new stores in those properties in February 2024. Extract from the statement of profit or loss for the year ended 31st March 2003 and 2024, 2023 and 24 are shown below. In addition to the statement of cash flow for the year ended 31st March 2024.
Okay. Now, Flash company sells electrical products both directly to the public and also to business trade customers. मतलब business to business B2B sale भी है और B2C directly to customer retail business भी है. Flash company operates from several properties which it owns. During 2004, one of Flash company's competitors ceased trading and Flash company acquired a number of its properties and opened new stores in those properties in Feb 2004. Extracts from the statement of profit or loss for the year ended 31st of March 2003 and 2004 are shown below. In addition to the statement of cash flows for year ended 31st of March 2004. Statement of profit and loss दोनों साल का है. Revenue, cost of sales, GP, operating profit, finance cost, PBT. Statement of cash flows for the year ended 31st of March 2004. Cash generated from operations, they have given something in note 1. Interest paid, tax paid, you have cash flow from operating activities. Then you have cash flow from investing activities. Purchase of property, plant and equipment. Then cash flow from investing activities, 8% loan notes issued, dividend paid, and net decrease in cash and cash equivalents. Cash and cash equivalents on 31st of March 2003 are 4,700 and ये 3,100 से कम हुआ, closing balance is 1,600. Cash generated from operations for the year ended 31st of March 2004 is calculated as follows. यहाँ पे आपको करके दिया है कैश फ्लो फ्रॉम ऑपरेशंस, जिसमें पीबीटी, add non-operating non-cash expenses, subtract non-operating incomes, change in working capital को adjust किया, and you got cash generated from operations. During the year ended 31st of March 2004, the sale of solar panels was one of Flash company's key areas of business. During that year, demand has often been greater than supply. During the year ended 31st of December 2004, Flash Company expanded into new geographical regions in which it was previously unrepresented. The geographical expansion has allowed Flash Company to negotiate improved terms with some of its major suppliers. Flash Company's sales director has expressed confusion at the latest financial statements, not understanding the deterioration in cash position despite increased level of profit. First of all, for 4 marks, you have to calculate 4 ratios: GP margin, operating profit margin, interest cover, and cash generated from operations divided by profit from operations का percentage. ठीक है? You have to calculate it for both the years 2003 and 4. And I hope you will appreciate the fact कि यहाँ पे आपको कोई भी adjustment करने को नहीं बोला है, right? You simply have to look at these numbers and you have to get the answer. So 4 marks तो easy marks है in the exam. Sometimes, when you are, समझो आपके पास सिर्फ आखिरी के 15 minutes है and you are stuck on this question, you are left with the last 15 minutes. तो उस केस में आप क्या करेंगे? Naturally, some of you will feel कि I will give up, but don't. Calculate the ratios. 4 ratios calculate कर लिए, 4 marks मिल गए आपको. Quick calculation करो. Then some of you might wonder here, let me write about one aspect at a time. Imagine karo there are 5 ratios that you have to comment on. Now you take the approach of writing about one ratio properly, in depth, and not writing about the remaining 4. तो क्या होगा? Say suppose there are 2 marks allocated to each. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. आपने एक रेशो के बारे में बहुत अच्छे से लिखा, एकदम परफेक्ट आंसर, 2 on 2. But then remaining 4 रेशोस के बारे में आपने कुछ नहीं लिखा. So you are losing out on those 8 marks. अब यहाँ पे how do you have to think in the exam कि भाई instead of writing about one ratio properly and then missing out on the remaining 4, let me write about each ratio half. आधा अधूरा लिखो, समझो कि what is the calculation and वैल्यू इन लास्ट ईयर, वैल्यू इन करंट ईयर, ऊपर नीचे इंक्रीज डिक्रीज क्या हुआ है उतना लिखो, आगे बढ़ो. जस्ट डू दैट मच. लास्ट ईयर करंट ईयर, लास्ट ईयर करंट ईयर, पांचों रेशोस का फटफट लिख दिया, वो तो आपके सामने वैल्यूज है. दैट मीन्स आउट ऑफ 10 marks allocated to this, maybe you have secured 3 marks, 3 to 4 marks. Then comment on something that is very easily discernible from the data given to you. कि भाई इन डेप्थ एनालिसिस भले ही पॉसिबल ना हो, थोड़ा थोड़ा अगर आपने 5 रेशियोज के बारे में लिखा है तो ही विल गिव यू 5 marks, एटलीस्ट आधे मार्क्स दे देगा. बट आपने सिर्फ एक रेशियो के बारे में बहुत अच्छे से लिखा एंड बाकी 4 रेशियोज के बारे में कुछ भी नहीं लिखा, तो यू हैव गारंटीड 0 marks फॉर योरसेल्फ फ्रॉम द रिमेनिंग 8. तो आपको कभी कभी ऐसे भी सोचना पड़ेगा. यू विल हैव टू थिंक अबाउट इट दिस वे एज वेल कि मैक्सिमम मार्क्स कैसे स्कोर करना है इन द एग्जाम, right? So these points are critical when you are writing the exam. So make sure कि just conceptual clarity तो एक part हो गया, इन चीजों में भी you should be able to manage. These tips are, see, question कैसे solve करना है, formula आपको आता है. My job is to give you these last minute tips की यार टाइम कम बचा है तो अपना स्कोर आप कैसे इंप्रूव कर सकते हो. गिव अप मत करो लास्ट मिनट, फाइंड आउट दीज वे आउट. Gross profit margin, operating profit margin, then interest cover and cash generated from operations divided by profit from operations. Cash generated from ops divided by यहाँ पे हम लिखेंगे 2000 2004 2003, same order in which they have written the data. हाँ ठीक है. 37,000 upon 92,600 37,000 upon 92,600. Gross profit is gross profit upon sales into 100. ठीक है. And this thing is 29,400 upon 81,700. 29,400 upon 81,700. कितना आएगा बताओ इसका?
$39.9.
पक्का?
Yes, sir.
39.95. राउंड ऑफ कर दो 40%. इसका 29,400 अपॉन 81,700. 35.98 राउंड ऑफ कर दो 36% पे.
सर ऐसे राउंड ऑफ कर सकते एग्जाम?
कर सकते हैं, ये क्वेश्चंस में कर सकते हैं. सेक्शन ए बी में मत करना, वहां पे पे अटेंशन टू द इंस्ट्रक्शन व्हाट दे हैव टोल्ड. यहाँ पे कर सकते हो, कोई इशू नहीं है.
ओके सर.
ठीक है. देन ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट मार्जिन 22,600 अपॉन 92,600. 22,600 अपॉन 92,600. एंड दूसरा 17,100 अपॉन 81,700. 17,100 अपॉन 81,700. ठीक है. $24.41 यार. हाँ. सी यहाँ वहां पे 39.98 था तो राउंड ऑफ करने में मतलब है. अब 24.41 है तो एग्जैक्ट नंबर लिख दो जहां तक पॉसिबल है, 2 डिजिट्स आफ्टर द डेसिमल पॉइंट. या जस्ट कीप दैट स्ट्रैटेजी इन माइंड. यहाँ पे हो जाएगा 20.93%. इंटरेस्ट कवर पीबीआईटी अपॉन इंटरेस्ट 22,600 अपॉन 5,100. 22,600 upon 5,100. This answer is in times. 17,100 upon, sorry, 17,100 upon 4,200. ठीक है, बताइए. 4.43 times. 17,100 upon 4,200. This is 4.07 times. Cash generated from ops upon profit divided by ops. Cash generated from operations is 29,900 and profit from operations is 22,600, right? इतना आएगा परसेंटेज टर्म्स में, बताओ तो. 29,900 अपॉन 22. सॉरी, गलती हो गया. दिस इज हाउ मच? 132.30%. और दूसरा, do you have cash generated from operations of the previous year?
Yes, sir.
हाँ.
It is 18 million.
It is given to you 18 million. Cash generated from operations is 18 million. So 18,000 upon 17,100 है ना. One zero. 18,000 upon 17,100. 105.26%. Okay. So these are your 4 calculations. 4 marks आपके जेब में. ठीक है. अब think about the other points that you should be calculating. Calculation वाला पार्ट I think हो गया है. अभी आपको करना है क्या करेंगे अभी आप? Second part, comment on the performance and cash flows of Flash Company for 2004. when they have asked you to comment on performance, what all ratios should you be talking about? एक आपको introductory paragraph देना पड़ेगा. उस introductory paragraph में you will have to mention about the fact that one of the competitors was lost. एक competitor चला गया अभी. He is not there in the business. He has stopped trading. So the company has acquired a number of properties and opened new stores in these properties. When did this happen? This happened in February 2004 and year ends on 31st of March 2004. So इसका बहुत ज़्यादा impact will not be there in the P&L account. Only, 1.5 month ka impact at best could be there. So let's write that down. That introductory paragraph gives you, like, it sets the tone for the answer. Okay, flash exam mein, how do you save time? You can select that much in the exhibit and copy paste. Okay. Flash company sells electrical products both directly to the public and also to business trade customers. Flash company sells electrical products to retail customers as well as to businesses. One of its competitors shut down operations and Flash company shut down its operations in February 2024 and Flash company ने क्या किया? Flash company acquired the premises / properties of the competitor and started its own stores there. The financial year ends on 31st of March, ठीक है, 24, and therefore in the P&L account of Flash company, we can only see the impact of these stores for 1 month, which is not a, or which cannot be a significant value. ठीक है, ये हो गया आपका. उसके बाद सो दिस यू सेट द टोन. अभी आपको पता है कि आगे जो कमेंट आप करोगे उसके लिए एक बेसिस आपके पास आ गया है. ठीक है. नाउ let's talk about the performance. When you are talking about performance, you can do two things. A, you can talk about the ratios and you can talk about the growth of individual items also. जैसे revenue 92,600, 81,700. कितना इंक्रीज हुआ रेवेन्यू बताना तो. 92,600, 81,700. This minus this 13.34%. Now, if a competitor has gone out of the market, so there is क्या होगा that his customers will come to you because he is not operating in the market. So Flash will benefit in a major way. And your gross profit ratio, if you see, has improved from 36% to 40%. And there could be a number of reasons. Can you tell me what could be the reasons behind it?
Revenue has been increased.
रेवेन्यू पर ठीक है, रेवेन्यू इंक्रीज हुआ तो साथ साथ कॉस्ट भी चेंज हो सकता है. फिर यहाँ पे क्या? वो तो अगर आपका से को सेल इंक्रीज हुआ तो साथ साथ कॉस्ट भी तो इंक्रीज होगा, है ना.
Yes.
right? So another, see, one thing, we cannot say कि अरे sales increase होगा, definitely होगा, no doubt. But if earlier I was selling 100 units, now I'm selling 150 units. So sales have gone up, but also the cost has gone up in the same proportion, right? So GP ratio will not change. But what you can do is what you can say in this situation is that Flash company का competitor has gone out, which means the competition in the market has reduced. Tell me, if the competition in the market has reduced, can I charge a higher price from my customers? Is it possible? है ना?
हाँ
Yeah.
अगर नहीं है तो आई कैन चार्ज अ हायर प्राइस बिकॉज
तो
कंपेटिटर
बोलेगा
होगा तो मेरे पे प्रेशर है ना प्राइस को कंट्रोल में रखने का. कंपेटिटर नहीं है तो कोई प्रेशर ही नहीं है फॉर कीपिंग प्राइसेस अंडर कंट्रोल, राइट? सो दैट इज अनदर पॉइंट. देन कैन वी से एनीथिंग एल्स? Anything with respect to cost side that you can see here? कुछ दिख रहा है आपको?
सर ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट मार्जिन बढ़ गया है.
हाँ, वो बढ़ गया है, बट उसका कहीं पे आपको एक्सप्लेनेशन यहाँ पे मिल रहा है. ड्यूरिंग द ईयर द सेल ऑफ सोलर पैनल्स वाज वन ऑफ Flash companies' key areas of business. During that year, demand has been greater than supply. Another reason, if demand is greater than supply, then you can increase the price, right? अगर supply ज्यादा है, demand कम है, तो you will succumb to the market pressure. आप market pressure में दब के price कम कर दोगे. But if demand is greater than supply, you can charge a higher price from customers. And Flash expanded into new geographical regions in which it was previously unrepresented. Any information about cost that you can see? Cost of sales के बारे में कुछ दिख रहा है आपको?
So the fourth point, it has improved terms with some of its major suppliers. So he's dealing in bulk, so he might get some relief on cost.
Okay, that is possible. So how do we frame this point? Negotiate improved terms, which means you will be able to purchase goods at a lower price. Raw material आप कम price में purchase कर पाएंगे. यहाँ पे लिखा है negotiate improved terms. Earlier, so now you are placing maybe a bulk order, and because you have better negotiation skills, instead of charging 30 per kg, the supplier is now charging you 28 per kg. So all of these could be good enough reasons for you to comment on the gross profit margin. ठीक है, उस पे अभी quickly let's comment on the GP margin. Gross profit margin. Gross profit margin was 36% in 2003, and it has improved to 40% in 2004. The gross profit margin of the entity has improved possibly due to the following reasons. What are the reasons because of which it has improved? First thing is that after you have acquired after the competitor has gone out and you have taken over the properties, competition is less, so you will be in a position to charge higher price due to the cessation of trade. Stopping of trade के लिए another word is cessation of trade. Due to cessation of trade by competitor, the business entity, due to cessation of trade by the competitor, the business entity has emerged as a stronger player in the market. In this case, the business entity has emerged as a stronger player in the market. In this case, because अरे यार क्या spelling mistake कर रहा हूं मैं, because the competitor has closed down the competition is lower in the market. So the company will be in a position to charge higher prices, thereby leading to higher profits. ठीक है? Then
And also,
एक second, the company has negotiated better terms with its suppliers. This will likely cause a decrease in the cost of material procured, which in turn will lower the cost of sales and lead to an increase in gross profit margin of the company. एक और मिनट रुक जाओ, एक और पॉइंट था अपना again, sale of the demand for solar panels, which is one of Flash company's main area of business, the demand is greater than supply. For solar panels, which is a major area of business for the company. ठीक है? The demand is higher than the supply, due to which the company will be able to charge a higher price from customers, thereby leading to an increase in gross profit. ठीक है? सारे के सारे रीजंस आपने अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन कर दिए. नाउ भार्गव, टेल मी.
sir, we can also state that the monopoly.
We can also say what?
We can also state that the entity has a monopoly in the market.
See, monopoly हम तब बोल पाएंगे when you are the only player in the market. Do you have any information which tells you that you are the only player? See, competition कम हुआ है does not make it a monopoly for you, right? Monopoly कब होगा when you are the only seller in the market, right?
Yes, sir.
Which is not the case here. Now, look at operating profit margin. Operating profit margin has gone up from 20.93 to 24.41. So, even this has improved, right? But ये कितने से improve हुआ है? 4/36. Your GP margin has improved by roughly 11%. 24.91, sorry, 24.41 minus 20.93 upon 20.93. आपका जीपी इंक्रीज हुआ है, जीपी मार्जिन बाय 11%. आपका ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट मार्जिन इंक्रीज हुआ है बाय 17%, राइट? है ना? As compared to last year. So first of all, let's write down the factual data points. Operating profit margin. Operating profit margin in or was 20.93% in 2003, and it improved to 24.41% in 2004. The change in operating profit margin is likely. Always use the words likely. Don't just say ki, haan, these are the reasons. Say these are the likely reasons. Is likely due to the following. Can you tell me some reasons why the operating profit margin has increased? Or look at the operating expenses. What do you make of them? How much has this operating expense increased by? Last year 12,300 था, current year 14,400 है. कितना percentage increase हुआ?
%17.
How much?
17%.
17%. Sales कितने से improve हुआ? 81,700 का 92,600 हुआ. कितना percentage increase हुआ sales?
Can you show the question, sir?
Sure.
%13.
15% की 13 की 12?
13.
13. Okay. The operating expenses have increased by 17%, whereas the sales have increased only by 13%. आपका expense 17% से increase हुआ, sale 13% से increase हुआ. This means the company has incurred a higher proportion of operating expenses in the current year. ठीक है? As compared to previous. Now, इसके पीछे क्या reason हो सकता है? Is there any reason apparent to you? Easily आपको कुछ दिख रहा है यहाँ पे कि यार ये reason के वजह से the operating expenses could be more?
New geographical region.
Expansion into new geographical this thing?
Yes, because of this administration expenses may be high.
Okay. Anyone else? कुछ और बोलना है किसी को? है किसी के पास कोई पॉइंट? Okay. Let's try to the increase in operating expenses is most likely. आपको क्या करना है? ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंस ज्यादा इंक्रीज हुआ है तो उसके पीछे का रीजन ढूंढ सकते हो आप. अब यहाँ पे hypothetical reason mat banao, but they have mentioned the fact that the company is expanding, the company is growing in size, and it has taken up, it has expanded into new geographical regions. In that process, kya hoga? If it has expanded into new geographical regions, then it is quite possible कि वो process में उसको कुछ ज्यादा खर्चा आया होगा. It could be a one-off expense. ठीक है? Is most likely due to expansion in newer regions and the expansion into newer regions, and it could and it is most likely a one-off expense that the company is incurring. So आप हर एक बार आपने एक्सपांड कर लिया, उस टाइम पे आपने एक्सपेंस इनकर कर दिया. बार बार थोड़ी इनकर करेंगे ना, एक बार कर दिया तो दैट इज मोर देन इनफ. हर साल एक्सपांशन नहीं हो रहा है, एक ही साल में हो रहा है. सो मेंशन द फैक्ट दैट ये जो इंक्रीज इन एक्सपेंस हुआ है, इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर रीजन. ठीक है? देन टॉकिंग अबाउट इंटरेस्ट कवर. ठीक है, when you are talking about interest cover, first of all, explain what is interest cover in 2-3 lines. Then write the factual data given to you. कि लास्ट ईयर इतना था, करंट ईयर इतना है, जो भी है. नाउ यू कैन कमेंट ऑन द इंटरेस्ट कवर कि वो इंक्रीज हो गया है ना. सी, आपका finance cost went up from 4200 to 5100, but even though finance cost increased, interest charges increased, आपका interest cover भी improve हुआ. So write about it here. Although finance cost has increased, the interest cover has also improved in 2004 as compared to 2003. This indicates that the company has generated robust profits or cash generated from operations as divided by profit from operations. This ratio, it basically talks about how, what is the ability of the company to generate cash. जितना profit generate किया, is cash collection from operating activity in the same line, और आप सिर्फ accrual basis पे profit earn कर रहे हो, but you are not making any cash collection. So this, if this ratio is getting better, that means the business is doing a good job in terms of cash collection. आप सिर्फ debtors to sales entry पास करके रुक नहीं रहे हो, आप debtors to sales entry करने के बाद again you are able to collect cash from the customers. ठीक है. So this ratio has also improved. Again, you will write what this ratio means in your own words. Then you will mention what was the figure in the previous year, what is the figure in the current year. So वो starting के steps same है, and you can say that the company is doing a better job at cash collection when it comes to the main business activity. ठीक है?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So fourth वाला point, will you guys be able to write? I have given you the idea. चलो, अब आते हैं मेन पार्ट पे जो सबको देखना था, दैट इज एनालिसिस ऑफ कैश फ्लो. ठीक है. नाउ लेट्स, वो जो रेशो ऊपर था ना, वो रेशो भी हम यहाँ पे यूज करेंगे. द कंपनी इज जनरेटिंग एक्स, कैश जनरेशन कैपेसिटी ऑफ द कंपनी इज गुड, राइट? बिकॉज last year the cash generated was 105.26% of the profit. In the current year the cash generated is 132.30% of the profit. Cash flows. The company has an excellent cash generating capacity from its operations. The cash generated from operations was 105.26%, was 105.26% of the profit of that year, and this has improved significantly to 132.30%. ठीक है. Last year जो 105.26 था, it has improved significantly to 132.30% in current year. This is a huge improvement for the company. ठीक है, although interest and tax has, although the value of interest has increased, still the company has enough cash in hand in order to make the commitments possible. Now एक एक करके अभी आइटम्स पे कंपेयर करो, ठीक है. नाउ कम हियर, डिक्रीज इन इन्वेंट्री, increase in trade receivable, increase in trade payable. So increase in trade payable means you have delayed the payment to suppliers. Decrease in inventories means you have been able, your inventory turnover is better, you are able to sell inventory quicker. अगर आपका इन्वेंट्री कम हो रहा है मतलब अभी इन्वेंट्री गोडाउन में नहीं है, इन्वेंट्री आपका बिक रहा है, so that means you are generating cash. And increase in trade receivables indicates that the company has given more credit to its customers, thereby delaying the collection of cash. आपको एक एक इस पे एक एक लाइन लिखना है, ठीक है. आपका क्या हुआ है, आपका रेवेन्यू इंक्रीज हुआ है, स्टिल आपका इन्वेंट्री इज गोइंग डाउन, विच मींस द कंपनी इज जनरेटिंग कैश बाय मेकिंग क्विक सेल्स, ठीक है. द कंपनीज सेल्स हैव improved significantly over the year. However, the inventory levels have fallen down. This indicates that the company is able to sell its inventory quicker to the customers and generate more cash in the process as compared to previous year. तो आपने एक इन्वेंट्री पे, सी डिक्रीज इन इन्वेंट्री मींस लास्ट ईयर 10,000 बैलेंस था, करंट ईयर 5,000 हो गया, तो आपने इन्वेंट्री बेचा तो आपको कैश मिला होगा. देन द बैलेंस ऑफ debtors has increased, thereby indicating that the company is now giving more credit to its customers, thereby delaying the cash collection from its debtors. ठीक है, आपने कैश फ्लो पे आपको कमेंट करना है. फर्स्ट इसमें इन्वेंट्री में व्हाट डिड यू से कि इन्वेंट्री का बैलेंस कम हो गया तो कंपनी फास्ट कैश जनरेट कर रहा है. नाउ यू आर सेइंग कि माय डेटर बैलेंस हैज इंक्रीज्ड, व्हिच मींस I am giving more time to debtors to make the payment, which means there is a delay in cash collection from debtors. And you will also say that the balance of creditors has also gone up, which indicates that the balance of creditors has also gone up, which indicates that the company is delaying the payment to creditors or buying more items on credit. ठीक है, this means the company is postponing the outflow of cash. यहाँ पे आपने क्या किया, आपने जो बेसिक चीज हम सीखे थे ना while making the cash flow statement, we just commented on that कि यार inventory, debtors, creditors का बैलेंस इंक्रीज हुआ, that means I am delaying the payment to creditors. Inventory का बैलेंस इंक्रीज हुआ, that means I am selling the inventories quicker, thereby generating more cash. And trade receivables का balance increase हुआ, which means the customers are now delaying the payment to me. So you spoke about the three items here, है ना. So ये एक पार्ट हो गया. Then ऑपरेटिंग एक्टिविटी का कैश फ्लो है 22,500, फाइनेंसिंग एक्टिविटी का कैश फ्लो है 6,000. द मेजर आउटफ्लो इज ऑन अकाउंट ऑफ परचेस ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट. ठीक है, राइट दैट डाउन. द मेजर outflow during the year is on account of acquisition of property, plant and equipment. उस पे और क्या कमेंट करेंगे आप बताओ? एनीथिंग इन द क्वेश्चन दैट टेल्स यू कि यार ये एक्सपेंडिचर ना वैलिड है, ये होना चाहिए एक्सपेंडिचर.
Flash company has acquired number of its properties and opened new stores.
Very good. It has acquired new properties and opened new stores. उसके वजह से the cash outflow has gone up. This is on account of the fact that Flash company has acquired new properties and started new stores, thereby leading to an increase in the cash outflow for acquisition of property, plant and equipment. हो गया. इन्वेस्टिंग एक्टिविटी पे भी आपका कमेंट हो गया. ये 8% लोन नोट्स इशूड का क्या इम्पैक्ट आएगा? Why do you think you could have issued the loan notes? Maybe
To generate the cash.
to generate the cash that is required for uh,
Investing
acquisition
purposes.
of the new properties. And company ने यार बहुत सारा डिविडेंड भी पे किया है. If you would have been in the FM paper, na, you could have made a comment on dividend, but we are not doing FM, we are doing FR. So we'll only write about the fact that this company has raised money by way of loans, which could be for the purpose of acquisition of new stores. And that is the right use of long-term financing, right? एक अपना जो मैचिंग प्रिंसिपल होता है कि यार लॉन्ग टर्म फाइनेंस को यूज करो फॉर लॉन्ग टर्म असेट्स एंड short term finance को use करो for short term assets. So that objective is also getting fulfilled here. ठीक है. The company has raised funds by issue of 8% loan notes. This is most likely to finance the acquisition of new stores by the company. ठीक है. And using long-term finance for acquiring long-term assets is the right use of funds. ठीक है. तो आपने अच्छे से कैश फ्लो का सारा कुछ था आपने एक्सप्लेन कर दिया. Now these many comments are enough. What I did here was I looked at the cash flow from operations and I tried to make sense of each of the items. ये increase हुआ तो क्या, ये decrease हुआ तो क्या, इसका ऐसा हुआ तो क्या. So what you are doing is you are bringing together all of these points so that एक बेसिक एक्सप्लेनेशन ऑफ कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट आपका हो जाना चाहिए. बस just that much, nothing else apart from that. This is not new knowledge, this is not new information, this is nothing new. This is just you trying to make sense of cash flow statement based on what you have studied so far. And that is super critical, that is super important. कुछ नया नहीं करना है guys. The fear is that हमें यहाँ पे अपना दिमाग लगाना है. हमें यहाँ पे अपना दिमाग नहीं लगाना है. हमें यहाँ पे सिर्फ ये इंश्योर करना है कि वॉट एवर डेटा इज अवेलेबल न्यूमेरिकल. और देखो हर न्यूमेरिकल डेटा के साथ में देयर इज सम अदर इंफॉर्मेशन दैट इज गिवन टू यू, राइट? आपको बस उस इंफॉर्मेशन को यू हैव टू कनेक्ट इट विद दिस and that is all that you have to do in terms of analysis of cash flow statement बोलो, analysis of P&L बोलो, analysis of balance sheet बोलो, आपको सेम ही चीज करना है बार बार. ठीक है. So there is absolutely no need for you to be concerned about this. what I have in mind now. Tell me if it works. Today, though, of course, we have been studying from 11 a.m. There's just one request I have to make. Uh, there is this form here. I would want you to fill the form. But how I'm thinking of these points is, see, मुझे जो भी कमेंट करना है वो मुझे सिर्फ उस डेटा पे कमेंट करना है जो मेरे सामने है. There is no bag of tricks from which I'm pulling something out. I'm not creating something in my own head. What I'm doing is I'm supposed to comment on cash flow. Okay, very good. What all things should I comment on? There is cash flow from operating activity, investing activity, financing activity. Operating activity देखो 29,900. Profit before tax पे कोई comment नहीं हो सकता. Finance cost है and depreciation है. इस पे कोई cash flow related comment possible नहीं है. But 1, 2, 3 पे cash flow related comment possible है ना. ये 3 पे cash flow related comment is not possible, but inventory, receivable and payable, our entire idea of cash flow comes from cash flow from operating activity में. These three are very important ingredients. Inventory का balance कम हुआ तो क्यों कम हुआ? Because I must have sold the inventory. Inventory sale किया तो पैसा मिला. Trade receivables का balance increase हुआ मतलब I must have given a longer credit to my customers. 20 दिन के जगह 50 दिन में you give me the money, which means I am delaying the collection, so cash inflow का speed कम हो गया. And creditors increase हुआ है. Creditors increase होने का क्या मतलब है कि I am delaying the payment to my suppliers. If I am delaying the payment to suppliers, तो मेरा cash conserve हो जाएगा ना. So these three I commented on the basis of my basic knowledge of डेटर्स, क्रेडिटर्स, इन्वेंट्री. कुछ भी नया नहीं किया ना मैंने, कुछ और अपने दिमाग से अलग सोचा. जस्ट इंक्रीज डिक्रीज का जो भी मीनिंग है वो लगाया. Then I came to investing activity and I saw that there is an outflow of 31,600. Now I have read the question once. I know that the company is acquiring the stores of the competitor. It is also expanding in new regions. तो जब आप ये दोनों एक्टिविटी करते हो, you are acquiring stores of another company, which is a non-current asset. You are expanding in new regions and there is a non-current asset that you are acquiring. Naturally, cash outflow होगा on purchase of plant and machinery. तो ये 31,600 का एक्सप्लेनेशन मिल गया. अब ये 10,000 जो है, 10,000 इज लोन नोट्स इशूड. अब लॉन्ग टर्म लोन मैंने इशू किया है, किस पर्पस के लिए होगा? मे बी अ पार्ट ऑफ इट इज टू फाइनेंस द परचेस ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट. बस उतना करके छोड़ दिया और कुछ भी नहीं करना है. जो डेटा मेरे सामने है बस उसी डेटा को मुझे फिल करके देना है. ठीक है. डू नॉट फील द प्रेशर कि भाई मुझे यहाँ पे कुछ सोचना पड़ेगा. आई एम रिपीटिंग, आपको यहाँ पे कुछ भी नहीं सोचना पड़ेगा. आपको यहाँ पे बस इतना देखना है कि इज देयर एनी इंफॉर्मेशन दैट आई कैन कनेक्ट, और प्लस माइनस पे कमेंट करना है मुझे. नथिंग एल्स. माय प्रॉफिट हैज गॉन अप. व्हाई हैज इट गॉन अप? जीपी रेशियो हैज कम डाउन. ओके, cost has increased. Operating profit ratio has gone down. Okay, some other operating expense has increased. तो उधर ही है. जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन है ना वो वहीं पे मिलेगा आपको. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट देयर इज नथिंग एल्स दैट यू हैव टू डू. ठीक है. विच पार्ट?
Excel sheet that you said now that the finance cost has increased.
हम्म, ये वाला इंटरेस्ट कवर.
Yeah,
Finance
yeah,
has increased, but interest cover has also improved. ना मतलब कंपनी ने फिनेंस कॉस्ट मेरा 900 से इंक्रीज हुआ, बट प्रॉफिट मेरा बड़े नंबर से इंक्रीज हुआ. सो द इंटरेस्ट कवर इज स्टिल बेटर.
yeah. Thank you, sir.
राइट. यहाँ पे कितना था? 4.07 था, यहाँ पे 4.43 हो गया. तो बेटर ओनली, राइट?
Yeah,
ओके, कूल. चलो, सो लेट्स डू वन थिंग. हमने आज 3 क्वेश्चंस किए. टुमारो इन द आफ्टरनून और मॉर्निंग, आई लेट यू नो बाय एंड ऑफ डे टुडे. लेट्स हैव वन सेशन टुमारो जिसमें आई लुक एट एनालिसिस ऑफ consolidated financial statements where you are disposing of a subsidiary. For the upcoming 2 weeks, now just religiously do one thing. Pick up at least 40 to 50 multiple choice questions every day. You have different kits. You have the study hub. Every day do 40 to 50 questions from MCQs. Focus equally on theory type MCQs, and wherever you are going wrong, make a note of what has gone wrong so that you have an error list of everything that has gone wrong. And before going for the exam, you go through the list of errors that you have made, and this becomes your guidance point on what to avoid in the exam. ठीक है? So follow this much. And section C के लिए single entity consolidated financial statements, keep on practicing. And analysis का I have told you मैं total 6 questions करा दूंगा आपके. आज 3 हो गए. I'll take up 3 more in the course of tomorrow, day after, and the entire upcoming week. If I'm not able to conduct this session during daytime, I'll conduct it later in the night, और मैं recording डाल दूंगा, आपको group पे inform कर दूंगा. Whichever way it is, I'll let you know on the group. ठीक है? Any
Yes,
other? हाँ, आपको जो भी challenge होगा, keep on telling me. I'll help you out with it.
Yes, thank
ठीक?
you.
Most welcome.
thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day.
सर एक
Thank you.
डाउट पूछ लूं?
हाँ बोलो.
सर मैंने ना कल एक क्वेश्चन सॉल्व किया था सेक्शन सी से कंसोलिडेशन का. उसमें मेरा बैलेंस शीट मैच कर गया था, बट फिर भी मैंने आंसर टैली करने के लिए जब आंसर मिलाया था तो उसमें रिवैल्यूएशन सरप्लस अमाउंट दिख रहा था जो कि सब्सिडरी का था. तो वो सब्सिडरी का रिवैल्यूएशन अमाउंट जब इंक्रीज हुआ था तो वो ऑलरेडी नेट एसेट सब्सिडरी में वर्किंग नोट नंबर 2 में एडजस्ट हो चुका है और वो ऑलरेडी ग्रुप रिटेन अर्निंग में शो हो रहा है. तो वो फिर अलग करके लिखना या दिखाना जरूरी है क्योंकि आंसर में अलग करके दिखाया हुआ था.
आप मुझे एक बार क्वेश्चन भेज दो ना. I'll check the question and let you know. ठीक है?
ओके सर.
Okay. चलो. Bye.
बाय सर.